Chapter 965. In the following period of time, the situation in the Victory East Province underwent another huge change. Mount Kunliu swiftly took over the Thunder Saint Palace's position and suppressed all the forces and sects under its jurisdiction. Although the people of the world were surprised by such a development, it was also reasonable. With the destruction of the Thunder Saint Palace, Mount Kunliu became the third lord of the province. The rise of Mount Kunliu was inevitable. When he was suppressing all the forces in the surroundings of Thunder City, he didn't encounter too many obstacles, and it could even be said to be exceptionally smooth. The reason was very simple. It was because Mount Kunliu had announced to the outside world that the province's third lord was Chu Hen, the monster who single-handedly destroyed the Heaven's unified dynasty and the Without Wang Valley, went to the Thunder Saint Palace, and killed the ancient eternal sage Lei Aoqiong. Without a doubt, the name Chu Hen was deeply rooted in people's hearts. In the eyes of the world, Chu Hen's future achievements would definitely surpass the leaders of the Thousand Worlds sect and the Nine Brilliance Palace. No one dared to object to Chu Hen becoming the third lord of the province. Moreover, the news of Mount Kunliu's sect leader Gong Yangyu reaching the ancient eternity stage was no longer a secret. The ranking of the sects and forces in the Victory East Province ushered in an era of reshuffling. The rise of Mount Kunliu meant that the General Alliance had broken free from the Hundred Nations Province. The Thousand Crane sect, the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, the Saint Star Dynasty, and other major regions would become the strongholds of Mount Kunliu. The Schools Alliance would also be able to send young blood to Mount Kunliu. The cultivation and growth of Mount Kunliu would be far superior to the Hundred Nations Province back mountain of the sect. On a clear lake with lush mountains and clear waters, Chu Hen sat calmly in the middle of the lake. Dark blue arcs of lightning were like a converging net that quickly flowed into Chu Hen's body. During the entire process, the surface of the lake was calm without a single ripple. It could be said to be astounding. Even the slightest flow of air would cause ripples on the surface of the water. However, the thousands of arcs of lightning seemed as if there was no wind. What precise control! A gentle voice came from behind. A gentle voice came from behind. Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He turned back and said with a smile, "Second sister." Long Xuanxuang also smiled sweetly, stepping on the water with nimble steps towards Chu Hen. With every step she took, soft ripples appeared under her feet. Chu Hen stood up, and the two of them looked at each other. Long Xuanxuang's eyes couldn't help but throb as she looked at the handsome young man in front of her. The boy who used to run behind her every day was now half a head taller than her. He couldn't help but sigh. Time really flies. Do you really want to integrate the General Union into Mount Kunliu? Long Xuanxuang asked. Chu Hen nodded. The Hundred Nations state is too small. What are your plans after this? I want to summon sister-in-law, Principal Jiang, sect leader Qi Zhang and the others here. Chu Hen answered without hesitation. Once Mount Kunliu completely takes over the area under the jurisdiction of the Thunder Saint Palace, there will definitely be a lot of vacancies in the management. We need them here, Long Xuanxuang nodded. She knew Chu Hen's goal. He hoped to integrate the General Union into Mount Kunliu. This way, when Chu Hen left the Victory East State, he would be taken care of by Mount Kunliu. Also, as mentioned earlier, the Hundred Nations state was too small. Any mid-tier faction in the Victory East State would be enough to wipe it out. If he wanted to survive, Chu Hen had to unite the General Union and the entire Hundred Nations state into Mount Kunliu. When Mount Kunliu was completely stabilized, the General Union would only need to leave behind a portion of the management. The rest of the upper echelons would all be transferred to Mount Kunliu. At that time, whether it was cultivation or managing the affairs of the various regions, it would all be up to them. After all, Chu Hen was now the nominal third lord of the province. With this title, the General Union would be able to gain a foothold in the Victory East State. Not to mention the support of the Eternal Realm expert Gong Yangyu. Ambition was only a small part of the reason. Continuously getting stronger was Chu Hen's true goal. Whether it was cultivation or vision, Chu Hen was no longer the same as before. On this point, Long Xuanxuang could clearly sense it. I'm going back to the Ice Profound sect, Chu Hen was stunned at first. Then he remembered that Long Xuanxuang had not returned for a few months because of him. She continued, not only me, but also Yi Yao, Mu Feng and the others. They are all going back to the 100 Nations state. Chu Hen nodded. Do you want to go back to the Sacred Star Dynasty to take a look? I can go back with you. However, Long Xuanxuang shook her head. Her beautiful eyes showed a trace of sadness that was hard to detect. The sadness was fleeting, and she smiled. Since you want to transfer the General Union to the Victory East State, I don't need to go back. Okay. Chu Hen did not say anything more. He knew that the reason why Long Xuanxuang did not want to go back was because of Long Zhan. To her, the Sacred Star Dynasty was a place of sorrow. Although she looked cold on the surface, in reality, Long Xuanxuang's heart was as sensitive and fragile as a thin piece of paper. Although she appeared to be especially strong in front of Chu Hen, the death of her father, Long Zhan, was a pain that she could never touch. Sister Xuanxuang, we can't leave. Suddenly, Yi Yao's voice came from the other side. She was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. She was as light as a swallow and flashed to the front of the two. At the same time, a few figures flashed to the front. They were Mu Feng, Haozi, Danjun and Hua Shui. You guys are here. Chu Hen greeted. He, the third lord of the state. This title is very intimidating. Will the victorious East State belong to us brothers in the future? Mu Feng smiled slyly. That's enough. Let's see what kind of person you are, Haozi replied in disdain. Mu Feng was dissatisfied. Your small eyes can only stare at peanuts. You don't know gold and pearls. There will be a day when I rise, that's true. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see it. Everyone was speechless. Chu Hen followed and asked, What's wrong? Why did you say we can't leave? Yi Yao blinked her big eyes and went forward to hold Chu Hen's arm, because we are about to leave for the Myriad World Sect and Jihua Palace. Myriad World Sect, Jihua Palace? Chu Hen's eyes lit up and he was pleasantly surprised. Could it be? That's right. Danjun nodded excitedly. The Qiangang Profound Realm and Jiuquan Profound Realm got the spots. Sect Master Gong Yang really has a way. Chu Hen shook his head and smiled. Of course. I heard that when Sect Master asked them for the spots, Hall Master Xing Yi was so angry that he flipped the table. In the end, Sect Master still got 3 spots. Sect Master Qiao Yong of the Myriad World Sect was more generous and gave us 4 spots, 3 for the Jiuquan Profound Realm and 4 for the Qiangang Profound Realm. That was only 7 spots in total. For the thousands of disciples of Mount Konglu, 7 spots didn't seem like much. However, for those who truly understood the wonders of the 2 profound realms, this was definitely an overjoyed reward. Then who did Sect Master give the spots to? Chu Hen asked. Junior sister Yi Yao, senior brother Mu Feng, senior brother Haozi, senior sister Long, senior sister Lingyan, me, and Hua Shui. Hearing this distribution, Chu Hen was once again grateful to Gong Yang Yu. Only 3 of the 7 spots were used on the disciples of Mount Konglu. Of course, the reason why Gong Yang Yu did this was not only because of Chu Hen, but also because the 7 of them had the greatest potential. There was no doubt that Yi Yao had the bloodline limit of the ultimate saint physique. Long Xuanxuang was extremely talented. She was at the 8th level of the Earth Profound Realm, and was the direct disciple of the Ice Profound Sect Master. Mu Feng, Haozi, and Hua Shui had all entered the star realm of the 7 star towers in the ancient desolate heaven domain's 7-star city. They had obtained the inheritance of power from there. They had great potential. Lung Lingyan and Danjun were the leaders of the disciples of Mount Konglu, so they deserved the spots. I've long heard of the Qiangang Profound Realm and Jiuquan Profound Realm. I never thought that I would be able to enter and observe one day. This time, I've benefited from you again. Long Xuanxuang's eyes lit up. Chu Hen smiled but didn't say anything. Being able to help the people around him obtain what they wanted was also a kind of gratification. We'll have to go back a little later, Yi Yao said. Hua Shui also stood up excitedly and shouted. Sect Master Gong Yang said that in order to prevent those two old fellows from acting shamelessly, the earlier we go, the better. I can't wait, haha, Hauzi said. Since that's the case, then all of you should set off immediately. Chu Hen didn't want to waste everyone's time, and they didn't delay either. After a few simple words, they prepared to leave together. Danjun, wait a moment. Chu Hen seemed to have thought of something and suddenly called out to her. Everyone turned around in confusion. Chapter 966. Is there any news of Teacher Shilan? Chu Hen asked Danjun, who had turned around. Everyone's gaze also landed on Danjun. While Mount Kunlia was taking over the Thunder Saint Palace's territories, there was one thing that worried Chu Hen the most, and that was Shilan's whereabouts. Before the ancient desolate heaven region opened, Shilan, Wu Yuan, Yen Hanlu, Xiao Ruaman, and the other young geniuses of the 100 Nations province had entered the Taiqing sect as temporary disciples. Then, because of Tsang Yujie's deliberate rejection, Shilan was expelled. Up until now, there had been no news of Shilan. Looking at Chu Hen's slightly expectant gaze, Danjun shook her head somewhat apologetically. I've already sent out the province's summons, but there hasn't been any news sent back. 2 days ago, the Clear sect also personally sent people over to apologize, but they didn't bring any useful news, still nothing. A trace of sadness flashed through Chu Hen's eyes. It had been so long, where could Shilan have gone? The 1,000 Crane sect hadn't returned either. Where could she have gone? Big brother Chu Hen, don't worry. Teacher Shilan is such a good person, she'll definitely be blessed by the heavens. I believe she'll be fine, Yi Yao comforted him. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. With how much Shilan cared for him, there was no way she wouldn't look for him during the turmoil in the East Victory province. If that was the case, there could only be one reason. It was very likely that Shilan had left the victorious East province, or even the eastern continent, just like Long Qingyang. It was because she was far away that she didn't know about the drastic changes that had taken place recently. Compared to other guesses, this was more reasonable. But why did Teacher leave the East continent? Chu Hen was puzzled. After pondering for a while, Chu Hen looked up and said to everyone, Go to the 1,000 World sect and Zhihua Palace first. I'll ask someone else to take care of Mentor Shilan. Everyone nodded their heads and left without another word. A gentle breeze blew across the tranquil surface of the lake, causing circles of ripples to form. Chu Hen stood in the middle of the lake, the clear water reflecting his slender and handsome figure. He sighed softly and raised his head to look at the sky. There seemed to be a beautiful and ethereal figure flashing through the beautiful clouds. The last time he met Shilan was when the Alliance of Generals had just been established, and he was preparing to go to Mount Kunli. The image of her leaving through the air and turning around to bid farewell was still fresh in his memory. She glanced back at him with a faint smile and touched his heartstrings. Tutor, if I don't see you again, may you rest in peace. The past of one matter led to many other matters. The people around him were puzzled. The man who had the same eyes as her. Chu Hen's expression became solemn. Li Wushang, a special name, mysterious background. The seemingly coincidental meeting in the Sacred Star Dynasty. Now it seemed like it wasn't a coincidence. Just who are you? Chu Hen muttered in a deep voice. And I just who am I? Suddenly, Chu Hen's mind moved. A white light flashed, and a jade scroll appeared in his hand. The jade scroll's workmanship was exquisite. It felt smooth and heavy, and it felt thick in his palm. This was what Li Wushang had left for him. It was also the only thing he had left behind. There were many cultivation methods and martial techniques in the Jade Scroll, and only people with the demonic eye sacred body could read them. Back in the 100 Kingdoms province, Chu Hen focused on the 7-star scripture. After arriving at Mount Kunliu, he focused on studying the one-sword flying immortal technique. As a result, ever since he obtained this jade slip, Chu Hen had rarely consulted it. I wonder if he left any clues on it? Chu Hen thought to himself, but he quickly rejected this idea. According to Gong Yangyu, Li Wushang didn't seem to want to see him in the short term, so why would he leave any clues for him to guess? Forget it, I'll wait for him to find me. I'm sure that day will come. Chu Hen didn't dwell on this issue anymore. Just as he was about to put the jade scroll away, his mind suddenly lit up. I wonder if there are any strange martial tactics that can control the energy of lightning. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Right now, Chu Hen's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 7th level of the Sky Profound Realm, and the 7-star scripture and the one-sword flying immortal art were almost fully mastered. It was time to integrate the power of the profound killer divine thunder into battle. The pure black killer thunder already had great destructive power. If it was combined with martial techniques, he believed that it could create a powerful killing move. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen immediately sat down and floated in the middle of the lake. A slight wave of energy spread out, and the jade scroll in his hand floated up like a feather. Chu Hen's pitch-black eyes immediately turned purple in an instant. The entire structure of the jade scroll appeared in front of his demon eyes. Then, a strong pulling force pulled Chu Hen's consciousness. With the hua, his pupils trembled, and a chaotic void immediately appeared in front of him. For example, in the strange space of the illusion, 2 different colored light orbs floated in front of Chu Hen. Each light orb was about the size of a fist. One was red and the other was gold. Most of the light orbs were gold. I didn't expect there to be so many things that I can't cultivate. Chu Hen looked at the red orbs, which had almost reached a quarter of the total, in surprise. He looked at the jade scroll in the same way as the previous 2 times. The gold orbs represented martial arts that he could cultivate, while the red ones meant that he couldn't. The peak of the 7th level of the Sky Profound Realm. Just based on this realm alone, he was at the peak of the victorious East State. Even so, there were still some martial techniques that he couldn't touch. How could Chu Hen not be shocked? Now, it seemed that the value of this jade scroll was absolutely immeasurable. Chu Hen couldn't help but be confused about Li Wushang's background again. After the shock, Chu Hen's consciousness began to explore the golden orbs, looking for martial techniques that he could refer to. Like the plucking of a zither, a few pieces of information appeared in Chu Hen's mind. Heavenly Winged Sword. The sword transforms into 6 heavenly wings, comes and goes without a trace. The sword aura is shocking. Earth Demon Saber. The chi shakes the mountains and rivers, draws the power of the earth, causes the mountains to collapse, shakes the surroundings. Strand after strand of information related to martial arts and secret techniques continuously appeared in Chu Hen's mind. All kinds of powerful martial arts made him feel overwhelmed. But none of them satisfied Chu Hen. Following that, 2 more balls of light shone with brilliant light. Thousand Thunder Escape. The profound meaning of thunder and lightning wields the power of thunder, a secret technique with a large area of effect. Chapter 967. For half a month, the back mountain area of Mount Kunliu was exceptionally peaceful. While Gong Yangyu led the sect's disciples to take over the various areas under Thunder Saint Palace's jurisdiction, Chu Hen stayed alone in a lake in the back mountain of the sect. The calm surface of the lake was extremely clear. Chu Hen sat in midair, his aura so steady that it seemed to be one with the surrounding air flow. Even at a close distance, it was difficult to catch the other party's indistinct aura buzz. Suddenly, Chu Hen's eyes opened abruptly. 2 sharp rays of lightning flashed in those deep eyes, followed by an incomparably monstrous aura. 1,000 lightning escape. Rumble, in an instant, huge waves surged into the sky, and pillars of lightning shot up into the sky from the surface of the lake. For example, the large wooden stakes that pierced through the ground, forcibly pierced through the lake below, sharp, peerless aura. Every pillar of lightning flickered with a bright cold light, and its aura was as cold as a lightning dragon or lightning python. The icy blue lightning was covered with a dense layer of black light. The sky was filled with water droplets that fell like rain. Chu Hen stood in the center of the many lightning pillars, high-spirited and imposing, like a shaman spirit that wielded ancient power, Chi. The raging blue lightning gathered in Chu Hen's palm and flowed up and down. Following that, a dim light flashed in his eyes, and he clasped his 5 fingers together. Quang quang. With a loud quang quang sound, the lake below him suddenly split open, and the layers of raging waves were all sent flying backwards, as if it had been hit by a meteorite. The raging waves were lifted, and the riverbed directly appeared in the air. The magnificent scene was comparable to overturning rivers and seas. The lightning pillars that appeared around Chu Hen all collapsed, the wind howled, and the earth shook. Looking at the lake below him that no longer existed, Chu Hen's face revealed a trace of excitement. In just a short half a month, the 1,000 lightning escape had already begun to show its power. However, this was to be expected. No matter if it was the 1,000 lightning escape or the skylight blade, they both had a prerequisite, and that was that one's true origin energy must be cultivated to the lightning attribute. Only by deriving the power of thunder and lightning could one cultivate these two martial arts. However, Chu Hen possessed the heart of Xian Xia godly lightning, so he could skip the previous step and start cultivating directly. It had to be said that the 1,000 lightning escape's explosive power with the Xian Xia's divine lightning as its foundation was so great that it made people overjoyed. At this rate of progress, I'll be able to start cultivating the heavenly light blade in a few days. The feeling of being strong was great. Chu Hen dispersed the dark blue lightning that had gathered in his palm. Between his eyebrows, there was a wild and unrestrained air of youth. With the heart of the mysterious killer lightning, coupled with the power of the bloodline boundary of the chaotic body and the sacred body of the demonic pupil, he had a lot more confidence in his journey to the victorious Eastern Province in 2 months to find Luo Mengchang. I say, Chu Hen brat, not bad. How long has it been since we last met, and your cultivation has actually increased so rapidly? At this moment, a sneaky laughter suddenly came from somewhere. Chu Hen was startled at first. Then, without saying anything further, he extended his palm. A beautiful blue light blossomed, and with a xiao, a lightning pillar shot out from Chu Hen's palm. Like a laser beam, it pierced through the air and attacked towards that figure. F***CK. Caught off guard, the other party threw down these words and hurriedly dodged. The blue pillar of light brushed past the other party's right shoulder. That person cursed, "You've gone too far. Is this how you treat your guests?" As soon as he finished speaking, a hurried wind rushed towards him. Before the other party could react, Chu Hen had already appeared in front of him. So fast, that person was stunned once again. In a hurry, he stretched out a pair of wrinkled old hands. With a flick of his 10 fingers, a series of complicated runes and secret scrolls flew towards Chu Hen like spiritual butterflies in the process of moving. Hundreds of beautiful runes quickly gathered together, and then instantly turned into a monster covered in tentacles. Swish, 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 more than 10 tentacles quickly swung out, directly wrapping around Chu Hen's limbs and torso. However, Chu Hen ignored it. Beams of powerful blue light shot out from his body. Upon contact, the monster's tentacles and body were directly pierced through and smashed into pieces. The mysterious killer thunder is indeed powerful. That person exclaimed repeatedly, then hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Stop, stop, stop, this old man is at a disadvantage." Zing! The dazzling blue light stopped less than half a meter away from the other party. This person was actually an old man dressed in simple clothes. Seeing that Chu Hen had stopped, the old man immediately smiled. "I say, Chu Hen brat, there's no need to treat me like this the moment we meet, right? I came in from the main entrance of Mount Kunli. Shifeng-zi, you've come at the right time. Return the jade scroll you obtained from the immortal viewing platform to me, Shifeng-zi, the former #1 inscription master in the 100 Kingdoms region. It was because of Shifeng-zi's name that Chu Hen and Shifeng-zi had worked together for a short time in the ancient desolate heaven domain. The content of the cooperation was that Chu Hen would assist the other party to successfully pass through the 4 kills of Heaven-Earth formation on the immortal viewing platform and enter the heart of the formation to obtain the immortal spirit tree. As a condition of the negotiation, the immortal spirit tree would be obtained by Shifeng-zi, while the other treasures would belong to Chu Hen. Later on, the two successfully found the immortal spirit tree. At the same time, they obtained 3 items under the immortal spirit tree: the Saint Fusion Pill, the Blood Coral Heart, and a Jade Scroll. The Saint Fusion Pill was consumed by Chu Hen. The Blood Coral Heart was later given to Lin Yuman of Heavenly Bamboo Peak as a return item to defend against the Tianai Saber. As for the Jade Scroll, it was snatched away by Shifeng-zi before Chu Hen had the chance to look at it. "Isn't it just a Jade Scroll? I'll give it to you," Shifeng-zi said casually. Chu Hen became even angrier. "If I were you, I'd hide far away. How dare you come looking for me?" Hearing this, Shifeng-zi couldn't keep his face any longer. He knew what Chu Hen was referring to. At that time, after collecting the immortal talisman spirit tree, it triggered the collapse of the center of the Killing Earth-Heaven formation, and Chu Hen was forcefully dragged into the center of the formation by the devouring power of the reverse flow. Because he felt that Chu Hen would definitely die, Shifeng-zi did not choose to save him. It was also because of the other party's departure that Chu Hen was in a bad mood. "I say, Chu brat, aren't I here to compensate you? I didn't even know that you would survive that day. To be honest, I thought that the person who destroyed the Thunder Saint Palace was someone with the same name as you. It was only when I heard that person was also from the 100 Nations state that I started to suspect." Chapter 968. It's fine that you didn't die, but your cultivation actually rose to such a level. Also, the energy ripples from your Reiki energy are a little familiar. Why does this feel like Celestial Talisman, Spirit Tree? Shifeng-zi muttered to himself as he continued to speculate. At the side, the corner of Chu Hen's eyes slightly shrank. This old fellow was indeed worthy of his fame from more than 10 years ago. From the beginning to the end, he did not release the slightest bit of spiritual energy fluctuation. He did not expect that this would be sensed by the other party. Suddenly, Shifeng-zi's eyes narrowed as he stared at Chu Hen as if he was staring at a monster. Could it be that there are 2 celestial talisman trees in the ancient desolate heaven domain? Humph. Chu Hen laughed coldly. "I don't care what you think, return my things first." Shifeng-zi was even more surprised. He raised his eyes and said, "There really are 2 spirit trees." Then, he slapped his thigh and came to a sudden realization. No wonder. I was wondering why he was able to walk out after falling into the heart of the 4 kills of Heaven-Earth formation. So that's how it is, How old is your celestial talisman tree? Let this old man take a look. At the mention of the celestial talisman tree, Shifeng-zi's interest was immediately piqued. Chu Hen could not help but feel that it was funny. Even though the other party was already so old, he was still so uncomposed. However, Chu Hen did not have the intention to be entangled with the other party. "I've already obtained the celestial talisman tree that you wanted. As for the rest, it has nothing to do with you." "Humph, I say, Chu Hen, don't measure the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure. I was only curious, I did not say I wanted your celestial talisman tree. I also did not say you wanted my celestial talisman tree." After speaking, Chu Hen extended his hand towards the other party and said indifferently, "Hand it over." Shifeng-zi had a look of dissatisfaction on his face. Then, with a thought, a white light flashed and a jade slip with dense golden patterns appeared in his palm. Chu Hen recognized this jade slip as the one he'd seen on the immortal prying platform back then. He stretched out his hand to receive it, but unexpectedly, Shifeng-zi dodged it. Hee, I say, Chu Henbrat, most of the rune techniques recorded in this jade slip are of heaven rank and above. If it's just you alone, you won't be able to completely decipher them even after 8 to 10 years. It just so happens that I've been rather free recently. Do you need me to be your temporary tutor? Thank you. Without waiting for the other party to finish speaking, Chu Hen snatched the jade slip and made a pleased gesture. Senior, have a safe journey. Are you sure? Shifeng-zi raised his eyebrows and said, the power of the immortal talisman spirit tree. I guess you haven't started studying it yet? After he finished speaking, Shifeng-zi raised his hand and an astonishing wave of Reiki energy surged out from his Naiwan palace. Along with a few brilliant rays of spiritual light that fell from the sky, in the next instant, the ground below suddenly split open. Vines rapidly sprang out, branches and leaves rapidly extended. It was like a tentacle monster that had drilled out of a hole in the ground. A flourishing aura of life filled the world. In just a few blinks of an eye, the location of the lake that Chu Hen had just destroyed actually grew a towering tree that was several tens of meters tall. What was even more surprising was that wisps of heaven and earth's spiritual energy were surging out from the tree. With the tree as the center, the spirit chi that pervaded the area within a radius of a dozen miles was obviously 2 to 3 times denser than other places. Sorry, I was a bit careless and couldn't control myself. Shifeng-zi shook his head with a little complacency, then turned around and swaggered away. As he watched the astonishing change before him, Chu Hen's eyes slightly lit up. His face revealed some astonishment, but soon after, he smiled and shook his head. How about I send you off? Half an hour later, on a mountain peak with beautiful scenery and a comfortable environment, there was a majestic and magnificent stargazing pavilion in front and the magnificent soaring sky rooftop behind. From here, one could see all the beautiful scenery of Mount Kunliu. Senior, when can we start studying the contents of this jade slip? Chu Hen had a hearty and gentle smile on his face. However, in Shifeng-zi's eyes, this smile was especially malicious. Ahem, didn't you want to send me off? Where is this place? Absolutely not. Senior, didn't you say that you want to be my temporary teacher? I really can't thank you enough. Shameless. Shifeng-zi opened his mouth and scolded. Aren't you a little too dirty? Chu Hen spread his hands and shrugged. Senior, don't beat around the bush. When we were working together in the ancient, desolate heaven territory, you said that you'll share everything you've learned with me after we come out. You're already so old, don't go back on your words. When have I ever gone back on my words? However. Then, Shifeng-zi's old eyes narrowed as he smiled slyly. Since I'm going to be your teacher, naturally, I'll have to go through the formalities of becoming your disciple. Give me 2 kowtows first. The door is on your right. I won't send you off. F***ck. This is the rule of becoming a disciple. Why don't I kowtow first? I still have something to do. Goodbye. Leave me some face. I'll just give you a cup of tea. Looking at Chu Hen's back view that did not even look back, Shifeng-zi was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. If it wasn't for the fact that I have nowhere to go, I wouldn't want to deal with a brat like you who doesn't have any manners. Forget it, take it as compensation for abandoning you in the Earth-Heaven 4 slaughter formation. On a soaring sky rooftop near the cliff at the edge of the mountain, Chu Hen and Shifeng-zi sat opposite each other. Next to them was the cloud-covered cliff. Since the matter of taking over the Lightning Saint Palace was still ongoing, Mount Kunliu had been exceptionally quiet recently. Can you not look so pleased with yourself? Shifeng-zi said as he glared at him. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and smiled. That's because you're biased because you're unhappy with me. Shifeng-zi rolled his eyes. All right, I can't be bothered to bicker with you anymore. Let's start from the celestial talisman tree, however. Seeing that the other party was speaking in a serious manner, Chu Hen's expression became much more solemn. The celestial talisman tree comes from the celestial talisman domain, a sacred place in the extreme south of this world. The celestial talisman tree is able to transform a inscription master's street tree, but its strength is far from that. Other than strengthening its own street tree, the celestial talisman tree can also strengthen anything related to the talisman arts. Oh? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. For example, the grade of a weapon forged from the Reiki energy derived from the celestial talisman tree is far superior to the items refined by an ordinary inscription master. In battle, the celestial talisman tree also possesses a very special and powerful support ability, like a miraculous healing ability. Healing ability? That's right. As Shifeng Zi spoke, he raised his withered old hand. Buzz! A blade of air appeared out of thin air, and instantly slashed across the other party's palm. The skin and flesh split open, and dazzling blood slowly flowed out. However, immediately after, strands of Reiki energy gushed out, converging towards the palm. Under Chu Hen's astonished gaze, the wound on the other party's palm actually healed rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, not even a scar was left. Chu Hen revealed an expression of surprise and then laughed. You don't have to torture yourself to explain the miraculous aspects of the celestial talisman tree to me. I'm so embarrassed. The corner of Shifeng Zi's eyes twitched, and then he raised his palm blade towards Chu Hen. Come, let me see if the celestial talisman tree has the ability to revive the dead. I'll borrow your throat. Chu Hen hurriedly jumped away and replied with a grin. You can try it yourself. Scram. If that's the case, then the celestial talisman tree is unable to revive the dead. Chu Hen nodded to himself, and put on a pensive expression. Shifeng Zi was infuriated, and regretted 10,000 times in his heart that he had agreed to teach Chu Hen the talisman arts. Chapter 969. Few, in a quiet pergola, Shifeng Zi leisurely blew at the steaming hot tea. After lightly sipping a mouthful of tea, he revealed a joyful expression. Not bad, it's been a long time since I've drunk such fragrant hot tea. Looks like I'll have to ask that little rascal for the position of guest elder. As Shifeng Zi spoke to himself, he subconsciously raised his gaze and looked at a lofty mountain in front of him. It's almost been 10 days. Shifeng Zi squinted his eyes and smiled with a slight complacency. During these 10 days, the mountain was extremely peaceful. This also meant that up until now, Chu Hen still hadn't been able to control the power of the celestial talisman spirit tree. As far as Shifeng Zi was concerned, if Chu Hen wanted to become an outstanding inscription master, the first thing he had to do was to perfectly control and utilize the energy of the celestial talisman spirit tree. Therefore, Shifeng Zi took the lead in teaching Chu Hen how to correctly integrate and release the energy of the celestial talisman spirit tree. But after 10 days, Chu Hen still didn't seem to have succeeded. Shifeng Zi inwardly shook his head, but he was also secretly pleased. After all, he was previously angered by Chu Hen to the point of gnashing his teeth, and this time, he had turned the tables. Looks like little rascal's natural talent is only ordinary. Compared to me when I was young, it's not just a little lacking. Subsequently, Shifeng Zi raised his hand and said to a young disciple nearby, Bring this old man around Mount Kunliu and come back in 3 days. However, just as he finished speaking, a OM sound was heard, and instantly, the earth shook with a strange rhythm. In the next instant, a shapeless sacred aura actually swept out in all directions. Shifeng Zi was slightly astonished. Turning around, his old eyes involuntarily constricted. He saw that on the peak of the lofty mountain in front of him, an incomparably imposing towering tree had shockingly appeared. The enormous treetop was like a golden auspicious cloud. Golden light flickered, and the lush branches and leaves swayed in the clear and crystalline light. Beautiful branches and leaves spread outwards, emitting a myriad of colors. Its entire body was sparkling and translucent, like a crystal tree. Dense immortal chi spread out. The giant mountain was already majestic, and the appearance of the giant crystal tree on the mountain peak was even more spectacular, as if it could uproot the 5 mountains and shake the heavens. This immortal talisman spirit tree? Shifeng had already withdrawn his frivolous attitude from before. His face was filled with astonishment and envy. He discovered that the height of the immortal talisman tree Chu Hen had obtained was actually twice the height of the one he had obtained. What an enviable bastard! Looks like it's only a matter of time before you surpass me. Then, Shifengzi's body moved and he turned into a ray of light as he flew towards the giant peak. Buzz buzz. At the same time, the aura of the enormous immortal talisman spirit tree that had appeared in the world was restrained, and it dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, it became an illusory image and returned to nothingness. Chu Hen sat on the soaring sky platform at the edge of the cliff. Layers of Reiki energy floated around his body, like a surging divine light, showing an extraordinary bearing. Success. I can mobilize a large amount of immortal talisman Reiki energy now. Chu Hen raised his head and looked at Shifeng, who had flashed and landed in front of him, and his eyes flickered with a soaring spirit. Shifeng nodded his head with slight certainty. Not bad. With the immortal talisman spirit tree as the foundation of the street tree, your Reiki energy intensity will be several levels higher than an inscription master of the same level. You can also receive some heaven-grade rune techniques in advance. Oh? I don't need to continue practicing my control of the immortal talisman Reiki energy? Shifeng shook his head. Actual combat is the best practice. Next, I can directly start practicing the rune techniques. Take out that jade slip. Chu Hen nodded his head to show that he understood what Shifeng meant. Following that, he opened his left hand and the air moved. An exquisite and beautiful jade slip fell into his palm. Following that, Chu Hen infused the Reiki energy into it, and the jade slip immediately glowed with a luxurious and dazzling luster. Mysterious rune numbers that were like spirit butterflies flew out of the jade slip. The gorgeous rune numbers sparkled and fluttered between the two of them, as resplendent as the stars. As time passed, these rune numbers constantly changed and arranged themselves, dazzling one's eyes. Just when Chu Hen didn't know where to start, Shifeng sat cross-legged in front of him. Let's start from the most basic literacy. Pick out the runes that you don't know one by one. Chu Hen nodded his head solemnly. Sweeping his gaze, he pointed at a rune that was similar to a chain on the third row on the left. This. Shifeng raised his eyebrows and replied, the rune is red as dew. It belongs to the auxiliary category. What about this? Chu Hen pointed at another one. It's red as cold. It can derive the power of water. This. Shang. It's an auxiliary rune that increases sharpness. It had to be said that Shifeng experience and knowledge were as rich as a surging river. Every time Chu Hen pointed out an unfamiliar rune number, he could instantly explain and annotate the rune. Back in the 100 Nations state, Chu Hen only had one way to deal with unfamiliar runes, and that was to try them out one by one. First, he would condense a single rune number, and then detect the attribute of the rune number. Without a doubt, although this method was effective, it was too slow. Especially when it came to high-level runes that were beyond Chu Hen's ability, it consumed an extreme amount of Reiki energy. But now, with Shifeng face-to-face explanation, Chu Hen finally understood the importance of a guide. Shifeng explained each word clearly, and Chu Hen memorized it attentively. Relying on his meticulous earnestness and good memory, in less than a day, Chu Hen had already basically understood all of the unfamiliar runes and numbers in the jade slip. Looking at the evening sky that was almost dyed red by the setting sun, Shifeng nodded approvingly. Let's stop here for today. We'll start arranging the rune technique tomorrow. Thank you, Senior. Chu Hen put away his impatience from a few days ago, and showed some gratitude on his face. Shifeng raised his eyebrows. Humph, you rascal, you're not so annoying when you're serious. Chu Hen smiled and shook his head. To be honest, he did not blame Shifeng Zi for leaving alone. After all, 9 out of 10 people would feel that there was no need to jump down after him. As the sun set, a flock of geese flew south, leaving a long shadow in the sky. Chapter 970. Days flew by, and the situation in the victorious East State gradually stabilized. Many of the higher-ups and disciples of Mount Kunliu returned to the sect one after another, and began to discuss the next step of management and control. At the peak of the majestic main peak, Gong Yongyu had his hands behind his back, and his eyes were like torches as he looked at a majestic mountain a few miles away. 2 blurry silhouettes could be vaguely seen on the high firmament balcony. One of the figures was surrounded by dazzling rune numbers. "Looks like the sect has guests," Gong Yongyu said plainly. "This Chu Hen has befriended quite a few people with extraordinary abilities. Should we go and take a look?" Flying Immortal Palace Master Chi Hanyu asked. Gong Yongyu shook his head. No need. Chu Hen will be leaving the victorious East State soon. Let him prepare. Chi Hanyu raised her head slightly, but didn't say anything. The situation in the province has more or less stabilized, but the area that was originally under the jurisdiction of Thunder Saint Palace is still rather complicated. I'm afraid we'll need to borrow some manpower from the Thousand World Sect and Jiuhua Palace. Or we can first ally with Heavenly Bamboo Peak, Taiching Sect, and other first-rate sections. At most, we'll give a few cities to them to manage. This way, Mount Kunliu will have a much easier time, Chi Hanyu analyzed. No one knew the situation of Mount Kunliu better than Chi Hanyu. Currently, Mount Kunliu's overall strength was not enough to replace Thunder Saint Palace. They needed help from the outside world to maintain this peace for now. All right. Gong Yongyu replied concisely. Chi Hanyu continued, as for the 100 Nations state, we need to bring them over as soon as possible. At that time, it will be a very powerful expansion for Mount Kunliu. Your point of view is the same as mine. You trust a small place like the 100 Nations state that much? Gong Yongyu smiled. I don't trust the 100 Nations state, but I trust him? Chi Hanyu was slightly surprised. Her gaze followed where Gong Yongyu's line of sight was pointing at the towering mountain range in front of them, and that figure seemed to be standing on the shoulder of the giant. Buzz buzz. The air began to vibrate rhythmically. Thousands of spirit patterns were like the roots of an old tree that had bloomed and extended in all directions. With Chu Hen as the center, colorful runes floated and danced in the air. The mysterious runes were like ancient characters that were arranged in an orderly manner. Then, they turned into strands of soft optical fibers that converged toward the bronze cauldron in front of Chu Hen. The bronze cauldron was very small. Including the feet, it was only half a meter tall. The light patterns were as ethereal as gossamer threads, like rivers flowing into the sea. Chu Hen lifted his palms up and flicked his fingers continuously. Reiki energy transformed into flames and moved at the bottom of the bronze cauldron. Condense! Suddenly, Chu Hen let out a light shout, and the scorching flames were silently extinguished. At the same time, the strands of talisman markings that had transformed into optical fibers transformed into numerous strokes that were imprinted onto the cauldron. Whoosh! The bronze cauldron immediately let out a low hum, and at the same time, the complex spiral patterns also shone with a dazzling golden light. Open! With a thought, Chu Hen opened the lid of the cauldron impatiently. In an instant, a burst of rich elixir aroma immediately filled the air. Success! Chu Hen's eyes flashed with excitement. He saw that there were 2 perfectly round elixirs that were slightly smaller than a longan lying quietly in the cauldron. The elixir was surrounded by a strange green glow. The green glow was like a flowing shadow, and it was dense like water mist. Haha, I've finally refined you, a heaven-class green flow elixir. Beaming with joy, Chu Hen shook his shoulders proudly. This was the first heaven-class elixir that he had successfully refined. All the elixirs that he had refined before were earth-class. During this period of time, Chu Hen had directly entered actual combat. The so-called actual combat was to directly condense and use all kinds of talisman technique. This included talisman formations, refining weapons, and refining elixirs. They were all within the scope of cultivation. In Shifeng Zi's words, an outstanding inscriptionist must be familiar with all kinds of fields and do his best to be all-round. Therefore, during these days, Chu Hen did not take a step out of this place. Every day, he would undergo high-intensity training on all kinds of talisman technique. With the help of the celestial talisman spirit tree, Chu Hen directly made up for the lack of Reiki energy strength between an Earth inscription master and a heavenly inscription master. From Earth-class talisman techniques to Heaven-class, Chu Hen advanced steadily. Before Chu Hen could rejoice for a while, Shifeng Zi's disdainful blow came one after another. "Humph, you can still be smug with this? Why don't you look at the debris on the ground and measure your results, huh?" Chu Hen stared blankly. Sweeping his gaze across, he saw that the entire floor of the high platform was filled with scattered debris. There were ashes of flowers and herbs, twisted metal equipment, and even the dregs of primal crystal stones that had been used up. Only then did Chu Hen realize that he seemed to be sitting in a pile of trash. "It seems like I've wasted quite a lot," Chu Hen said as he rubbed his nose. "It's more than a little." Shifeng Zi's old eyes narrowed as he said angrily, "Let me calculate for you. You've used a few hundred sets of precious medicinal materials, and you've wasted more than 10 pieces of rare metal materials. Just high-grade origin crystal stones alone, you've spent more than $1 billion. If it were up to me, you failed. The moment he heard this, Chu Hen could not help but feel a little speechless. Regardless of whether Shifeng Zi was intentionally teasing him or not, he had to admit that a good inscription master was really created with an endless supply of resources. However, when he saw that Chu Hen was silent, Shifeng Zi raised an eyebrow. Then, he put on a profound expression of a senior teaching a junior. "Although your innate talent is a little lacking, since you're only an Earth inscription master, this can be considered as barely passing. Next, let's look at the content of the next talisman technique." As Shifeng Zi spoke, he took out the jade slip. It seemed like Chu Hen did not pay attention to what the other party was saying. He directly took out the 2 clear flow pills from the bronze cauldron and stuffed one of them into his mouth, without even thinking. The corner of Shifeng Zi's eyes twitched as he stood by the side. He secretly cursed this guy. Is he treating the clear flow pills as jelly beans? Eating them so casually? Before he could reprimand him, Chu Hen had already muttered to himself, "I've already eaten so many pills, why haven't I reached the heavenly inscription master stage yet?" These days, whenever Chu Hen refined a pill, he would not be able to make it past the next day. After all, they were basically pills that targeted the Reiki energy and the strengthening of the street tree, so it would not affect his martial Dao cultivation base. Coupled with the fact that Shifeng Zi did not specifically stop him, Chu Hen felt more at ease consuming them. Chapter 971. Why haven't I broken through to become a heavenly inscription master after eating so many medicinal pills? Chu Hen licked the corner of his mouth as he felt the Reiki energy in his Naiwen palace that was already full but stuck at a bottleneck. Then, he looked at the other heaven-rank clear flow pill. Shifeng Zi snorted coldly. "If you want to reincarnate earlier, then go ahead and eat another one." Chu Hen was stunned. "Will it really die? Idiot, don't think you can mess around just because you have the celestial talisman spirit tree as the foundation of the street tree. If you forcefully insert too much energy, it will still burst your Naiwen palace." However, when he saw Shifeng Zi's serious expression, Chu Hen did not dare to continue and put the other clear flow pill away. Shifeng Zi secretly smiled with a hint of complacency. Then, he lightly coughed twice and poured the Reiki energy into the jade slip, summoning a series of beautiful talisman numbers. The talisman numbers that were as dazzling as flowing shadows danced in front of the two of them before they arranged themselves together like a large net. Shifeng-zi roughly glanced at it and said with slight surprise, "It's a tool inscription this time. I wonder how much metal will be wasted." Chu Hen was already used to Shifeng-zi's ridicule and disdain. In any case, Shifeng-zi would feel uncomfortable if he did not ridicule him more than 10 times a day. It's the Eternity Heart tool inscription, and it's a higher grade heaven rank tool inscription at that. It's very difficult, Shifeng-zi muttered to himself with a slight frown on his face. He seemed to be hesitating if he should let Chu Hen skip this talisman inscription and study the other talisman inscriptions first. What's the specific content? Chu Hen asked. The Eternity Heart tool inscription is used to refine an origin weapon. Shifeng-zi replied. The so-called origin weapon, to put it bluntly, is a weapon that only the owner can use. Others can't control it. Oh? Upon hearing this, Chu Hen's interest was immediately piqued. For most wuxiu, a weapon was like his left and right arm. Naturally, he hoped that only he could use it. If it was accidentally taken away by others in the course of a battle, it would not be of help to the enemy. Let's study the Eternity Heart artifact pattern. Are you sure? It might be a waste of time, Shifeng-zi said. There's no harm in giving it a try first. All right. Shifeng-zi did not speak any further. After which, he began to explain in detail to the other party. The Eternity Heart tool mark is divided into 3 levels. The first level allows a weapon to only be used by its owner with your current strength. You should be able to do it if you practice diligently. The second level is much more complicated. It can fuse any person's power into the weapon, giving the weapon the attribute of an external power. This will result in an even more powerful additional output. The difficulty lies in balancing the repulsive force between the two. If the quality of the weapon is too poor, it will not be able to withstand the power fused into it and explode. If the power fused into it is too weak, it will be suppressed by the weapon. The creator needs to have extremely precise and formidable control. Shifeng-zi raised his head and paused for a moment before continuing. With your current cultivation, it's impossible for you to inscribe the second level of the Eternity Heart rune. As for the amplification effect of the Immortal Talisman Spirit Tree, the success rate will not exceed 50% at most. There's only a 50% success rate? Chu Hen muttered in a low voice. Then what about the third level? The third level is where the essence of the Eternity Heart tool mark lies. This level stresses upon using the tool as a supplement to allow one's own power to appear in a material form. What are you talking about? Chu Hen did not really understand. You don't understand? Shifeng-zi was slightly helpless. It was slightly strenuous for him to explain this to a self-taught person. He swept the surroundings with his gaze and casually picked up a finger-long metal strip. Look at this. Let's say this is something I refined with the third level of the Eternity Heart tool mark, OM. Immediately afterwards, a wisp of sharp aura flew out along the metal strip, and instantly turned into a sharp material longsword. However, as he looked at Shifeng-zi's demonstration, Chu Hen's face revealed a wisp of disdain. He shook his head and smiled. Senior, may I ask what's the difference between your material sword chi and my material sword chi? Whoosh! Along with the sound of his voice, the air trembled. Chu Hen's palm condensed, and an extremely sharp true essence sword image converged into form as well. Moreover, under Chu Hen's control, the surface of the material sword image was covered in numerous violent and powerful dark blue lightning bolts. Similarly, they both displayed their own strength in a material form. What was the difference between using the Eternity Heart tool mark or not? This was what puzzled Chu Hen. When faced with Chu Hen's doubt, Shifeng-zi merely raised his brows and sneered. A frog at the bottom of a well. Let me ask you, how long can you persist in this form? Chu Hen's gaze focused slightly as he looked at the lightning sword that jumped about wantonly in his palm. Needless to say, although this sort of explosive force possessed an extremely shocking amount of damage, the consumption of energy was unquestionable. In other words, it was difficult to guarantee a sustained output for a long period of time. Could it be? Chu Hen's heart instantly lit up, and the movement of his pupils caused the lightning sword chi in his palm to suddenly shatter into a myriad of light and shadow fragments. Shifeng Zi became even more complacent. Ha 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 ha, you stupid kid, your reaction isn't slow. That's right, the third level of the Eternity Heart Tool Mark can allow the energy fused into the weapon to continue erupting, and complete an efficient output of damage. If you want, you can hold a true essence weapon with high explosive power at all times. Even if the true essence in your body is exhausted, that weapon forged by your own energy will still exist in your hand. Let me put it this way, Shifeng Zi's tone paused once again, and his gaze was filled with certainty as he said, "This is actually a talisman technique that can forge energy into a weapon." Forge energy into a weapon? Chu Hen came to a sudden understanding. It's simply great. After listening to Shifeng Zi's explanation, Chu Hen almost jumped up. The third level of the Eternity Heart Tool Mark was actually so abnormal? In an instant, Chu Hen's mind instantly spun rapidly, and various bold ideas surged out like tidewater. But right after that, Shifeng Zi poured a bucket of cold water on him. The Eternity Heart Tool Mark is indeed extremely miraculous, especially the third level. It's considered to be one of the top heaven-rank talisman techniques. Even if you have the Celestial Talisman Spirit Tree, with your current ability, you don't even need to think about it. Chu Hen curled his lips. I didn't say anything. Your eyes have already exposed what you're thinking. Truthfully speaking, your progress is sufficient to put countless people to shame, so it's better to take it step by step. Chu Hen lightly heaved a sigh of relief, and the corners of his eyes narrowed slightly. Take it step by step? But I don't have much time left. There's still a month before that person comes. Chapter 972. Eternity Heart Tool Inscription. It was a powerful tool inscription that belonged to the top of the heaven rank runes. After learning about it from Shifeng Zi, Chu Hen began to study the Eternity Heart Tool inscription. During the process of cultivating, Chu Hen's control of the rune energy became more and more adept at controlling the Celestial Talisman Spirit Tree's energy. Just like Shifeng Zi had said, actual combat was the best way to cultivate. However, Chu Hen's improvement was completely built on the foundation of a large amount of material consumption. Every failure would waste or destroy a lot of resources. Fortunately, Chu Hen was not someone who lacked money. Moreover, after Mount Kunliu took over the territories of the Thunder Saint Palace, it was equivalent to obtaining the resources that the Thunder Saint Palace had accumulated for thousands of years. The resources that Chu Hen used were just the tip of the iceberg. Nearly half a month later, Chu Hen finally completed the first level of the Eternity Heart Weapon inscription, the refinement of his origin weapon, with a shocking sharpness. Whoosh! The sharp chi radiance blossomed like a multicolored light, causing the surrounding air to tremble. Shifeng Zi, who was sitting nearby with his legs crossed, could not help but raise his eyebrows. He instinctively put down the teacup in his hand before he stood up and flew toward Chu Hen, who was on the soaring sky platform. It's a sword. No, it's a saber. The saber in Chu Hen's hand looked like a sword. It was straight, and there was a row of saw-teeth on the back of the saber. It emitted an oppressive coldness, but it was also filled with a hint of warmth. Shifeng Zi stroked the strand of beard on his chin and frowned thoughtfully. I think I've seen this type of blade before. What was it called? I can't remember, Sun Luo. Chu Hen replied in a deep voice. Yes, Sun Luo. Shifeng Zi came to a realization. He then asked, why did you forge such a saber? It seems like it's just a spiritual artifact. Chu Hen smiled slightly, and a faint sense of longing couldn't help but surge out from between his brows. This saber was an imitation of the limitless Fang that mentor Shi Lan had given him. There was no complicated reason for this. It was just a simple thought. Not bad, it's almost at the level of a yang-grade saint weapon. It's just that the inscription of the tool inscription is still a little sloppy. If the runes are arranged more smoothly, it should be able to reach the yang grade. Shifengzi casually took the saber from Chu Hen's hand and observed it for a while before giving this evaluation. Sacred artifacts were divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades. Star rank, moon rank, yang rank, and above that was the list rank. In Shifengzi's opinion, it was praiseworthy for Chu Hen to be able to forge a sacred artifact that was close to the yang grade in such a short period of time. However, the difficulty of the first level of the Eternity Heart tool pattern was far greater than the second level, which was the fusion of external energy. Chu Hen would have to spend even more time researching it. As for the third level, which was to forge one's own energy into a weapon's tool inscription, it was even more unimaginable for now. Continue practicing, Shifengzi said. Chu Hen looked up slightly as though he was pondering. When Shifengzi saw this, he asked, "What's wrong? You've already completed the first level of the Eternity Heart tool pattern, why are you still so depressed?" Chu Hen shook his head. "It's nothing. I just thought of a few old friends, and I don't know if I'll have the chance to meet them again." As he spoke, Chu Hen instinctively looked at the sky in the east. "I suddenly feel like returning to the Saint Star dynasty to take a look. Then let's go back. Big brother Chu Hen." Suddenly, a voice that sounded like a silver bell sounded, and it was accompanied by the sound of wind whistling. A circle of dust rose as 4 figures flashed on the high platform. "You guys?" Chu Hen was stunned. He saw Yi Yao, Long Xuanxuang, Mu Feng, and Haozi. "We're back," Haozi said. "You're back so early? Isn't it going to end in half a month?" "Hee hee, you didn't expect this, did you?" Mu Feng smiled slyly. "We've already decided to go with you to search for the whereabouts of the Devil King, so we've brought it forward by half a month. We'll go back to the 100 Kingdoms state first to report to our families." Astonishment, surprise, and a little moved. "Big brother Chu Hen, although we won't be of much use, we can still run errands for you. Bring us along," Yi Yao said resolutely. Mu Feng also went over and put his hand on Chu Hen's shoulder. He winked and said, "No matter what, Miss Meng Chang is our friend. We'll accompany you everywhere this time. When we're back, I don't want to be the 3rd or 4th Lord of a state. Just give me a slightly larger territory, and I'll be satisfied with a bunch of beautiful girls by my side." The few of them couldn't help but smile. Chu Hen nodded, feeling touched. He then asked Long Xuanxuang, "Are you going back to the 100 Kingdoms state?" Long Xuanxuang hesitated for a moment, then smiled sweetly. "Then let's go back and take a look. The 100 Kingdoms state? I haven't been back for more than 10 years. If those old fellows who harmed me back then knew that I've returned, they'd definitely be scared half to death." Shifengzi muttered to himself at the side. The 4 of them then noticed that there was someone else beside them. Mu Feng's eyes narrowed, and he asked curiously, "I say, old master, who are you? You look like a badass." If it was anyone else, they would definitely be unhappy to hear a junior speak to them in such a tone. However, Shifengzi wasn't angry at all. Instead, he replied with a smile, "Since you've already called me old master, then I'm your old master, really? But my good-for-nothing father didn't have an older brother. Could it be that my grandparents had 2, and threw one away because they thought it was too ugly? That's not right. Old master, you don't look scary. When you were young, you should be 1/10 as handsome as me." Mu Feng. Seeing this, Chu Hen hurriedly stopped Mu Feng and cupped his fists in apology. "Senior Shifeng, this brother of mine has been lacking a brain since he was young. He doesn't respect his elders. I hope you don't forgive him." Shifengzi smiled. "No matter, you're not much better off anyway." Chu Hen was speechless. He was inexplicably being shot at. "Wait, what did you say? This guy is called Shifeng? Could it be Shifengzi?" Mu Feng asked in disbelief. Shifeng immediately put on the posture of an expert. At least you know what's good for you. Looks like you can still be saved. Long Xuanxuang, Yi Yao, and Haozi were also stunned. As people of the 100 Kingdoms province, there weren't many people who didn't know of Shifeng name. He was once the #1 inscription master in the province. After that, he disappeared for more than 10 years without any news. He did not expect the other party to be acquainted with Chu Hen. He senior, I was just joking. You're a magnanimous person, don't lower yourself to my level. Mu Feng also hurriedly apologized to the smiling face. After all, Shifeng was famous for his eccentric temper back then. Now that he was smiling, who knew if he would secretly bury a talisman formation to blow him up? No one could guarantee this kind of situation. That's enough. This old grandpa is so kind, why would he lower himself to your level? Yi Yao curled her lips and said, This little girl's words are pleasant to hear, this old man likes it. Shifeng smiled. In the process of simple conversation, Chu Hen clearly discovered that the aura emitted by the four of them had greatly increased. Looks like you've all gained a lot this time, Chu Hen said. At the mention of this, the eyes of the four of them flickered with excitement. Big brother Chu Hen, I've broken through to the profound sky realm. Yi Yao blinked her big eyes like an excited girl next door. Oh! Not only was Chu Hen surprised, even Shifeng was astonished. Such a young profound sky realm? He looked at Yi Yao with a serious expression, then immediately raised his eyes and blurted out in surprise, Sacred. Sacred bloodline limit. No wonder. You're also from the 100 Kingdoms province? Chu Hen smiled. That's right, we all grew up in the 100 Kingdoms province. Shifeng nodded and praised, Haha, great. The small 100 Kingdoms province can be considered glorious for once. The four of them all went to the Qiangang profound realm of the Thousand World sect. Leng Lingyan, Shanzhen, and Hua Shui went to the Zhihua Palace. Because they were separated, the three of them did not know the plan of the four of them. Otherwise, with their friendship towards Chu Hen, they would definitely not hesitate to participate in the search for Luo Mengchang. Of course, Chu Hen did not wish for this to be the case. After all, Mount Kunlia was in need of manpower and needed a few responsible disciples to take over the major affairs, other than Yi Yao, who entered the profound sky realm with the advantage of the Tai Chi sacred physique. Long Xuanxuang, who was already at the 8th level of the profound earth realm, also broke through to the profound sky realm. Mu Feng and Haozi also reached the peak of the 9th level of the profound earth realm, and were only a layer away from the profound sky realm. In just a short period of 2 months, Chu Hen secretly marveled at the power of the Qiangang profound realm. Then, Chu Hen first went to inform sect Master Gong Yangyu. Then the 6 of them directly went to the 100 Kingdoms province through the sect's teleportation formation. Chapter 973. Sacred Star Empire, Flaming Rain City. After so many years, Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang had returned here once again. Both of them felt a sense of longing for this place where they had grown up. The two of them walked side by side on the streets of the city, from one end to the other, passing by familiar restaurants and tea-houses, and finally arriving at the old house of the Long family in the general's residence. Everything was exceptionally familiar. However, without Long Zhan and Long Qingyang, the Flaming Rain City was always tinged with sadness due to the establishment of the Alliance of Generals. The entire Long family had moved to the capital city. Of the 4 great families of the Flaming Rain City, the Yi family, the Liang family, the Lu family, and the Long family, only the former remained. After all, the Yi family and Chu Hen had a well-known feud. Even if Chu Hen did not pursue the past, the Yi family would still try their best to stay away from the Alliance of Generals. As for the Lu family who had framed Chu Hen and broken his tendons, they had long since disappeared from the Sacred Star Empire. As for the Liang family, because they had helped the Long family in the past, they also received better returns. As the saying went, the river flows east for 30 years, and then west for 30 years. At this moment, because of Yi Yao's return, the Yi family's atmosphere was in a good mood that was rarely seen in recent years. Master, first miss, come out quickly. Second miss is back. Second miss, you're finally back. It's been almost 6 years. Oh my God, am I dreaming? My poor second miss, where have you been all these years? Let me see, you're taller and prettier than before. The moment Yi Yao stepped into the house, a group of servants hurriedly swarmed over. They were all crying tears of joy, especially the older servants, who put their palms together and chanted words of thanks to the gods. Since young, Yi Yao's kindness and obedience had won many people's favor. Looking at the familiar yard and the familiar people, Yi Yao smiled faintly. She was happy but also a little ashamed. She bowed and nodded to express her apology. I'm sorry, everyone. I've made you worry. Everyone shook their heads and said, It's good that you're back. Yao Little Yao. At the same time, the family head, Yi Qing, and his wife, as well as the eldest daughter, Yi Yu, also hurried over after hearing the news. Father, mother, sister. I'm back, reuniting after a long time. The whole family embraced each other. Where have you been all these years? We searched the entire 100 Nations province, but we couldn't find you. I thought we wouldn't be able to see each other again in this life. Even though her father and sister had done a lot of wrong things in the past, Yi Yao couldn't help but tear up when she heard the concern in their tone. After a while, both sides calmed down. Yi Qing also began to ask him about his experiences and circumstances in the outside world over the years. Yao, where did you go? Yi Yao shook her head lightly. She didn't want to talk about the dangers she had gone through in the past. I went to the Eastern Victory Province. It was Big Brother Chuhen who saved me. Chuhen? The moment they heard this name, the members of the Yi family felt as though their hearts were pricked by a needle. It was as though this name was a taboo in the Yi family. They were unwilling or even afraid to mention it. The incident in the Eastern Victory Province had spread like wildfire. How could the Yi family not know about it in the end? The two words Chuhen brought them more fear in their hearts. Then, he came to the Blazing Rain City as well? Yi Yu asked carefully. Yi Yao nodded. Yi Yu and Yi Qing looked at each other. They seemed to be at a loss for words. Naturally, Yi Yao understood her father and sister's worries. She immediately said, He didn't say he would come to our house. However, Big Brother Chuhen asked me to bring these things to you. As she spoke, Yi Yao took out 2 storage rings and handed them to Yi Qing. These are? Yi Qing curiously took the rings. With a thought, he took the lead and looked inside one of the rings. Swoosh, a dazzling light flashed. In an instant the entire hall was filled with things. Thick scrolls, piles of bottles and jars of pills, as well as weapons and armors that emitted resplendent radiance. The gorgeous colors lit up the entire hall. Yi Yu and the others, who were caught off guard, jumped in shock. Martial skill scrolls, spirit pills, miraculous medicines, and armors. Yi Qing's pupils shrank. His voice trembled as he called out, Spirit weapon. No, it's Saint weapon. They're all saint weapons. Yi Qing, who had lived for most of his life, had never seen a saint weapon with his own eyes. But now, there were dozens of saint weapons and saint armors in front of him. This made his mind go blank. Yi Yao did not expect her father to take out everything before she finished speaking. She immediately advised, Father, don't open that ring. There are 10 billion high-grade primordial crystals inside. If you take them all out, this house will collapse. What? 10 billion high-grade primordial crystals? Yi Qing was so shocked that he almost threw the storage ring away. Disbelief surged in his heart. This is all for us? Yes. Yi Yao nodded affirmatively. She patted Yi Qing's wrist, indicating that he did not have to worry. She knew that Yi Qing had been living in fear all these years. After all, he had joined forces with Wei Qingfan to harm Chu Hen so badly back then. Chu Hen no longer cared about this matter. He had even told Yi Yu that, if the Yi family had any difficulties, they could look for the Alliance of Generals for help. But no matter what, the Yi family did not dare to step into the Alliance of Generals. Since that was the case, Chu Hen had directly gifted this batch of resources to the Yi family. It could be considered as letting bygones be bygones and repaying enmity with kindness. I really want to thank him in person. Yi Qing let out a long sigh. But he understood that he no longer had the right to stand in front of Chu Hen. Meanwhile, Yi Yu stared at Yi Yao with an extremely complicated gaze. Then, she asked in a low voice, "Little Yao, your cultivation seems to be very high, right?" Hearing this, Yi Qing began to size her up. But no matter what, they could not see through Yi Yao. Under the repeated questioning of the two, Yi Yao pursed her lips and softly said, "Heavenly profound realm, profound heaven realm." Boom. These three simple words were like a bolt from the blue that exploded in the minds of the Yi family. Yi Qing and Yi Yu looked at each other and saw the shock and horror in each other's eyes. Unbelievable! Absolutely unbelievable! One should know that in the Sacred Star Dynasty, the void-piercing realm was enough to be called an expert. The profound Earth realm was a top expert. As for the profound Heaven realm, it was already in existence that they could not pursue. Now, the Yi family had an expert in the profound Heaven realm. To Yi Qing, this was more shock than joy. If they did not know that Yi Yao would not lie since she was young, they would definitely not dare to believe this was true. Is it because of him?" Yi Yu said in a daze. Yi Yao bit her lips and nodded. Yi Yu smiled. It seemed to be a little self-deprecating. She looked at Yi Yao, her younger sister who was as innocent as ever. "Your choice is right. Heavenly Sword Pavilion." On the Iron Chain Bridge, a secluded mountain stood alone. There were not many people around the quiet mountain. A tall tower emitted a desolate aura. The tall tower was a little old, looking simple and shabby. On the square outside the gate of this ancient pagoda, a hunchbacked, white-haired old man was sweeping the fallen leaves and dust on the ground on the potholed square. The man's footsteps were unsteady, and his sweeping movement was also more strenuous. He looked like a candle in the wind, about to run out of oil. At this moment, the old man suddenly stopped what he was doing. A pair of muddy old eyes stared blankly at the young figure that appeared on the Iron Chain Bridge. The old man's lips moved. Although he could not make any sound, a ray of light flashed in his eyes. "Old man, you're not dead yet," Mu Feng grinned. Although his words were not pleasant to hear, his eyes were slightly red. The old man's throat moved slightly, and his voice was as low as a mosquito's buzz. "It's good that you're back." Mu Feng was still smiling, but 2 lines of tears had quietly streaked across his face. Mu Xiongtsai, the former master of Heavenly Sword Pavilion, the heaven-shocking demon sword that dominated an area. During the Battle of the Sword Pavilion Sacred Ceremony, Mu Xiongtsai challenged the 3 leaders of Shura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Otherworldly Spirit sect alone. In the end, he burned his vitality as a price and forcefully used the power of the Great Pagoda demon-slaying technique. Seeing the once high-spirited and imposing master of Sword Pavilion reduced to this state, Mu Feng's heart was filled with sorrow. Then, he quickly walked in front of Mu Xiongtsai and impatiently took out a jade bottle. Chapter 974. Imperial City. Chu Hen stood proudly on top of the General League's gate tower and looked down at everything in the city. He was standing on the original Sacred Star Dynasty's Imperial Palace. After various renovations, it no longer looked the same as before. Compared to the last time he came back, the Imperial City had changed quite a bit. Around the General Alliance's headquarters, one magnificent building after another was built. After a few years, the General League had become an unshakable colossus in the 100 Nations prefecture. "It's changed a lot, right?" Su Yorong and Long Xuanxuang held each other's hands and climbed up the steps of the gate tower like sisters. Principal Jiang of the Academy Alliance and President Xiao of the Runemaster Guild also walked up together. In just a few years they had developed the General League to such a large scale. These people were proud of themselves. Of course, they were also clear that if Chu Hen did not bring a large amount of resources back then, there would not be the current General Alliance. No matter what, everyone respected and admired Chu Hen. It is indeed very big. I almost can't find the location of the Heavenly Star Marshal House. Chu Hen joked. Everyone smiled. Chu Hen asked, "How's the large-scale teleportation formation connecting the victorious East Prefecture?" When Su Yorong and the others returned, they had brought all the top runemasters of Mount Kunliu with them, since they wanted to unite the General League and Mount Kunliu. A teleportation formation between the two was naturally necessary. "It's going smoothly," Su Yorong answered without hesitation. "We've been planning since the first day we came back. First, we have to connect the teleportation formation with the Thousand Crane Sect. 2 days ago, Sect Master Qizhang sent a message saying that we can conduct the first teleportation test in 2 months' time." Chu Hen nodded. Among the arrangements of runes, teleportation formations had always been an extremely complicated and huge project. They had to repeatedly test the accuracy of the teleportation formation. Being able to conduct the teleportation test in less than half a year was already very fast. Of course, Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, and the others were not in a hurry to go to the victorious East Prefecture. After all, there was a huge gap between the two of them. If he wanted to truly integrate into the rhythm of survival in Mount Kunliu, he would have to spend a lot of effort to improve his own abilities. Everything was developing in the direction he had hoped for. Chu Hen gazed at the vast horizon in front of him. It was as boundless as the sea. With a huge tree like Mount Kunliu, there was no need for him to worry too much about the General Alliance in the future. In the next few days, Chu Hen paid a visit to the Luo family in Taishao City. He met with Luo Mengchang's adoptive father, Luo Qiong. Over the years, under the care of General Meng, the Luo family had become exceptionally prosperous. However, Chu Hen did not tell Luo Qiong about Luo Mengchang. He only said that Luo Mengchang had temporarily left with the mysterious person who had sent her to the Luo family, and that she would naturally return to see him after some time. Furthermore, the return of Shifeng Zi had also caused quite a commotion in the 100 Nations state. As the former #1 rune master in the region, Shifeng Zi had been seriously injured after suffering the backlash from the runes. Since then, he had been hunted down and killed by those who coveted his secret rune book. They had thought that Shifeng Zi, who had disappeared for more than 10 years, had long disappeared from the world. Who would have thought that he would return at this time? Those who had kicked him when he was down were all scared out of their wits. There were even many who had asked General Meng for help. However, after the news that Shifeng Zi and General Meng were in cahoots, those people immediately understood what despair meant. Half a month's time passed in the blink of an eye. The agreed time with the mysterious person was about to arrive. Mu Feng, Haozi, Yi Yao, and Shifeng Zi, who had gone out on their own, had also returned to General Meng to meet up with Chu Hen. It was undeniable that everyone's mood was slightly heavy. Chu Hen said with a solemn gaze, "Actually, you don't have to go. Of course I have to go." Yi Yao was the first to express her stance. Her tone was resolute. "I was saved by Brother Chu Hen. I must see Sister Mengchang safe and sound." Mu Feng rubbed his nose and grinned. "To be honest, it's quite beneficial to follow you. That useless father of mine has become as flirtatious as before. The Heavenly Sword Pavilion definitely has nothing to do with me. Rather than staying here and wasting my talent, I might as well go out and wander the world." "That's right. We are not purely doing this for sex. In fact, we have our own plans as well," Haozi added. It was undeniable that the main purpose of this trip was to find Luo Mengchang. However, at the same time, they also hoped to see more of the 3,000 great worlds. Seeing their serious gazes, Chu Hen no longer hesitated. He immediately turned to Shifeng Zi and said, "Senior, what do you think?" Hee hee, you guys are leaving the victorious East region? How can I miss out on such a good opportunity to roam the world? Shi Fengzi replied in high spirits. It was obvious that he was very interested in this topic. Chu Hen secretly shook his head. To be honest, he did not intend to bring Shi Fengzi along. However, after thinking about it, the other party was a top-notch inscriptionist. Coupled with his rich experience, he should be of great help at crucial times. The next day, everyone returned to the victorious East region. Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, and the others insisted on sending them off. They also arrived at Mount Kunliu. According to the agreed time, Qiao Shaowan of the Thousand World Sect and Han Ichuan of the Palace of Jihua also arrived one after another. In an instant, Mount Kunliu became exceptionally lively. It seems like you guys really want to leave this place. Chu Hen looked helplessly at Qiao Shaowan and Han Ichuan, whose temperament had changed quite a bit. Han Ichuan spread his hands and revealed a clean smile. Only by being with the strong can I become stronger. You make me want to follow you. I am flattered by your words, Chu Hen replied. Han Ichuan raised his eyebrows and did not say anything else. Qiao Shaowan, on the other hand, shook her head proudly. How is it? I said that 3 months is enough to break through to the profound sky realm. Look, the third level of the profound sky realm is only 4 levels lower than you. Chu Hen smiled. Since the heaven profound realm and Jiokuan profound realm are so powerful, you guys can just stay in there every day. Why follow me? That won't do. The heaven profound realm can only be entered once. After that, the effects will be greatly reduced. We will only consider entering when we are stuck at a bottleneck. Otherwise, I would have reached the profound sky realm before the ancient desolate heaven region opens. With regards to Qiao Shaowan's explanation, Chu Hen was not too surprised. He had already guessed this point. The reason why he said that was just a simple joke. Senior Long. Dan Zhen hurriedly walked in front of Long Xuanxuang. Chapter 975. Senior Sister Long, the sect master of the mysterious ice sect, is here. Dan Zhen hurried over to Long Xuanxuang and said. Chu Hen, who was conversing with Qiao Shaowan and Han Ichuan, also turned around. Long Xuanxuang nodded slightly, then followed Dan Zhen to the main peak of Mount Kunli. You guys go ahead, I'll go take a look, do as you wish. Han Ichuan smiled. Then, Chu Hen followed Long Xuanxuang to the main peak. In the guest hall, an old man in his 60s with a kind face was chatting merrily with the sect master of Mount Kunliu, Gong Yangyu. The old man was dressed in white robes. Although he was over 50 years old, the aura he exuded revealed the demeanor of an expert. Even in front of the eternal realm Gong Yangyu, he did not seem to pale in comparison, master. At this moment, Long Xuanxuang and the others appeared at the entrance of the hall. Everyone looked over. Gong Yangyu's eyelids twitched slightly, then he raised his hand to Chu Hen, who was behind Long Xuanxuang. You guys are here. This is the sect master of the mysterious ice sect, Bai He. Junior Chu Hen greets sect master Bai He. You're the third lord of the prefecture region? Bai He raised his eyes and stood up. He cupped his fists and returned the greeting. I've heard so much about you over the past few days. I feel like I've lived my entire life in vain. It's my honor to meet you today. Sect Master Bai He is too kind. Chu Hen glanced at Long Xuanxuang and said, Speaking of which, Sect Master is my second sister's master, so you're naturally my senior. If not for the fact that I'm in a rush, I would have personally paid a visit. I hope Sect Master Bai He will forgive me if I've neglected you. Chu Hen's words could be said to have given Bai He enough face. After the latter heard this, he laughed out loud and was overjoyed. He continued, A few days ago, I received a letter from Shuang saying that she was leaving the victorious East region. As her master, I didn't know how to reply. After thinking about it, I decided to personally send her off. After saying this, Bai He's expression turned gloomy. Although Long Xuanxuang was Bai He's last direct disciple, She was also the one he doted on the most. It was not an exaggeration to say that he treated her as his granddaughter. Moreover, Long Xuanxuang's talent in controlling the ice technique made by he think of passing the position of the next sect leader to her. Hearing that Long Xuanxuang was leaving victorious East region, Bai he was naturally reluctant. Master, I've let you down. Long Xuanxuang bowed her head apologetically. What are you talking about? Bai he waved his hand and said, I still want to be the sect leader for a few more years. Even if you continue to stay here, it won't be your turn to take over so soon. Moreover, your senior brothers and senior sisters have always been unconvinced. It's just right for you to go out and train for a few years before you come back. It'll be best if your cultivation base can catch up to mine when you come back. Haha. Bai He's words immediately relieved the pressure in Long Xuanxuang's heart. As though a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders, Long Xuanxuang's beautiful eyes were filled with gratitude. She said solemnly, Thank you, Master, for fulfilling my wish. Bai He waved his hand. It's all right. You can leave first. I still have to discuss the matter of the alliance between the two sects with sect leader Gong Yang. You kids can go and play. Alliance between the two sects? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He looked at Gong Yang Yu in surprise. The latter nodded his head and gave his affirmation. Gong Yang Yu was indeed Gong Yang Yu. Chu Hen sighed in admiration. It seemed like Gong Yang Yu really wanted to expand Mount Kunlu. Chu Hen couldn't help but look forward to the day he returned. How high would Mount Kunlu rise? Just as he was about to leave, a hurried figure suddenly rushed in with a strong gust of wind. Chu Hen, senior brother Chu Hen. A young disciple shouted out while gasping for breath. He's here, the person who's looking for you, Hua. The air seemed to flow faster. Gong Yang Yu and Bai He stopped talking. Chu Hen raised his head slightly and muttered softly, It's today, on the vast Dao platform of the main peak. Everyone's eyes were focused on a figure wrapped in loose black robes. Everyone's heart was filled with questions. Who was this person? What did he have to do with Chu Hen? Even though everyone in Mount Kunlu knew that Chu Hen wanted to leave the victorious East region, only Gong Yang Yu, Lung Lingyan, Shan Zhen and a few others knew the main reason for his departure. The wind is strong here. Sir, please come in and have a cup of tea. Flying Immortal Hall Master Qi Hanyu invited him politely. There's no need. If he doesn't come in half a cup of tea's time, I'll leave. His indifferent voice didn't contain any trace of emotion. Qi Hanyu couldn't help but feel a little awkward after being rejected by the other party. Immediately after, Chu Hen brought Long Xuanxuang, Yi Yao, Mu Feng and a few others over. Senior, I'm sorry for making you wait so long. After being separated for 3 months, Chu Hen had been waiting for this moment. From his eyes, one could see many expectations and hopes behind him. Qiao Shaowan and Han Ichuan looked at this mysterious person who didn't even dare to show his face in confusion. It seemed like the reason why Chu Hen left this time was because of this person. Back then, I only said that I was looking for you. Yet, you brought so many people for me. The mysterious person said coldly. Chu Hen was stunned. Without his explanation, the other party already knew that Shifeng Zi, Mu Feng, Long Xuanxuang and the others were with him. Senior, I just thought that one more person would be a greater help. There's no need to explain. Whatever you want to do has nothing to do with me. If not for her, I wouldn't care about you. So, have you found the location? Chu Hen's eyes were filled with hope. I'll tell you later. If you're ready, then let's go. It was obvious that the mysterious person wasn't willing to stay here any longer. Fortunately, Chu Hen had arranged everything that needed to be arranged. Chu Hen turned to look at Yi Yao, Mu Feng, Haozi and the others. Everyone nodded their heads firmly. The people from Mount Kunliu gradually gathered. Ganjianjiu, Bai He, Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, Qi Hanyu, Wen Liang, Xie Wuhe and the others all sent them off with their gazes. You really don't need me to go with you? Hua Shui said with a sniffle. Lung Lingyan and Shan Jin also had a questioning look on their faces. If Chu Hen nodded his head, they wouldn't hesitate to follow him. However, Chu Hen only smiled gratefully. In comparison, Mount Kunlun needed them more than him, sect leader. I'll leave the alliance of generals to you, Chu Hen said in a low voice. Ganjianjia nodded. Don't worry, sister-in-law. Chu Hen looked at Su Yorong and said half-jokingly, if I happen to meet Big Brother outside, I'll urge him to come back earlier. Su Yorong's eyes reddened. She replied softly, you guys too. Come back earlier. After giving a few simple instructions, Chu Hen looked back at the mysterious person. Senior, let's go. Behind them, Ganjianji waved his hand. Prepare the teleportation portal. No need. The mysterious person directly rejected Ganjiangio's good intentions. No need? Why? Everyone was puzzled. Could it be that the teleportation portal of Mount Kunlun was too short? But it should at least be faster than moving on foot. Then, Han Ichuan took a few steps forward and raised his eyebrows. In that case, let's go to Jiuhua Palace first. With the large-scale teleportation portal of Jiuhua Palace, we can directly travel across 2 large provinces. Han Ichuan said this with some pride. However, the other party's tone was still so calm that no one could be angry. No need. You don't even need this? Are you going to fly us? Han Ichuan couldn't help but find it a little funny. I have my own teleportation portal, what? Everyone couldn't help but be startled. Without any further explanation, the mysterious man directly retreated to an empty space at the back. Whoosh! In an instant, a piercingly cold wind swept out. Tranquil true inner force surged around his body. Then, the person interlocked his fingers and quickly deduced a series of seals. Then, he gently placed his palm on the ground. Buzz! The mighty aura spread out like a tide. Rays of dazzling golden light patterns were like cracks on the surface of ice. The mysterious talismans intertwined with each other like lit ancient runes. Under everyone's astonished gazes, a mysterious talisman array with a diameter of 20 to 30 meters suddenly appeared on the ground. Boom! Rays of light that were comparable to divine rainbows bloomed in the sky. The sky lost its color and the wind and clouds moved. A majestic golden beam of light immediately appeared between the heavens and the earth. Is this a mobile teleportation portal? A cry of surprise came from the crowd. Amazing! No wonder they didn't use the large-scale teleportation portal of Jiuhua Palace. It seems like they were prepared. Everyone couldn't help but look at the mysterious person in a different light. Han Ichuan also knew that he had underestimated the other party, but he still muttered with a little dissatisfaction, even if it's a mobile teleportation portal, it can't cross 2 large provinces. The majestic teleportation portal with a soaring aura pierced the sky like a divine pillar. Inside and outside Mount Kunlun, the wind and clouds surged, and the heavens and the earth lost their color. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen took the lead and leaped into the talisman array. Yi Yao, Long Xuanshuang, Mu Feng, Qiao Shaowan, Shifeng Zi, Haozi, and Han Ichuan all followed closely behind and leaped into the array. Buzz! Buzz! The dazzling golden light caused their bodies to emit luxurious light patterns. Under the mysterious person's lead, Chu Hen and the others leaped into the sky one after another. At this moment, all the major mountain ranges of Mount Kunlun were filled with people. Chu Hen looked down at everyone from above and cupped his fist. His aura shook the heavens, and his voice was like thunder. Everyone, the mountains don't move, the water doesn't flow, the sky doesn't move, and the clouds move. Chu Hen will bid farewell here. Flowers will bloom again, and people will meet again. I will bid farewell today, and we will meet again in the future. I will bid farewell today, and we will meet again in the future. His powerful voice was like a long river flowing into a valley, reverberating in everyone's heart. The people of Mount Kunlun, the alliance of generals, and the mysterious ice sect all waved their hands to bid farewell. He's finally going to make it out of the victorious East State. How enviable! On the viewing platform of a jade building, Qi Ting, Lu Qi, Wu Yuan, Yen Hanlu, Xiao Ruaman, and the other geniuses of the 100 Nations state couldn't help but feel emotional. Not long ago, they had come to the victorious East state with Chu Hen and had been in the same sect. He's really an enviable guy, but I'm also proud of him, Wu Yuan said sincerely. Qi Ting grinned, haha, who can deny it? Everyone raised their heads, and there seemed to be a hint of anticipation on their faces. Rumble. The vast and powerful energy continued to circulate, and the figures of Chu Hen and the others in the teleportation array quickly became illusory. At this moment, the clouds in the sky rotated rapidly, and rays of golden light poured down. Within the dazzling golden light, an obscure black passageway was faintly discernible. The mysterious black passageway was like the spatial door that led to another world. What's that? On another mountain range, several miles away from Mount Kunliu, two statue-like figures exuded an extraordinary aura. Xiaoyong, did you see that just now? That's not a pure teleportation array, but a spatial passageway from another dimension. Xiao Yong and Xing Yi looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Could that person be the Saint? Rumble. Chapter 976. The blue sky was clear and boundless, and the breeze was gentle as it ruffled the long weeping willows on both sides of the manor's waterside pavilion. In the courtyard of an antique manor, a sturdy middle-aged man was teaching a few 12 to 13 years old children basic self-defense and combat techniques with punches and kicks. The few children were not particularly focused, and they let out slightly childish shouts from time to time. Moreover, they would occasionally play around with their nearby companions. You few kids are itching for a beating, and you're still so perfunctory. Let me tell you, if you can't pass the Youth Martial House's entrance exam in half a month, just wait to be scolded by the patriarch. The middle-aged man turned around and scolded in a deep voice. The moment they heard the two words patriarch, the few naughty children immediately became much more obedient, and their punches and kicks were also filled with more strength than before. The middle-aged man secretly laughed. It seemed like only the strict patriarch could control these naughty children. Instructor Lu, we've been practicing for almost 4 hours, and our hands are about to break. Let us rest for a while. A little girl wearing a flowery dress blinked her big eyes as she begged pitifully. The other children also looked at the middle-aged man pitifully, but the latter did not seem to care at all. He did not have the slightest intention of relaxing. Practice for another half an hour. The few children once again let out a wave of complaint. The middle-aged man shook his head slightly helplessly. The patriarch asked me to supervise all of you to practice for 6 hours a day, and I've already relaxed a lot. What else do you want me to do? It's really tiring. Other families only need to cultivate for 2 hours a day. Why do we need to cultivate for so long? Another little brat who was unconvinced retorted. That's right, our family is already the number 1 family in Yi City. The patriarch still wants us to work so hard. Don't tell me our patriarch is a sadist. Shh. Lower your voice if you're heard, I'll spank your butt until it blossoms. Instructor Lu could not help but feel helpless when he saw the people who were getting more and more enthusiastic. He sighed and said in a deep voice, Why do you know the patriarch is so strict with all of you? Because 20 years ago, our family was almost annihilated by our enemies. Annihilated? When the children heard these 2 words, their expressions immediately became much more serious. And the direct cause of this result was that our family thought too highly of itself and was too arrogant. Especially the younger generation who were too lazy in terms of cultivation, causing our overall strength to be left far behind by our enemies without us even realizing it. Finally, one day our family was taken advantage of by our enemies. What happened after that? The girl in the flowery dress asked nervously. Then, Instructor Lu's eyes were filled with emotion, and there was some respect between his eyebrows. Later, a noble person saved us and helped the family through a difficult time. After that, the family master thought about it and decided to never neglect cultivation at any time. So that's how it is. After listening to Instructor Lu's narration, the young children were obviously much quieter, and their eyes flashed with determination. Then, sonorous but slightly immature shouts reverberated again. At the same time, in the middle of the mansion, a hurried figure was passing through the rugged courtyard with strange rocks, running all the way through a long gallery, and finally entered a courtyard that exuded a classical aura. In the courtyard, an elegant old man in a green robe raised a brush and dipped it in ink, drawing vigorous and powerful strokes on a piece of white rice paper. Family master. At this moment, the figure outside the door hurriedly called out, The grace receiving platform. The rune on it lit up, ta. As soon as he finished speaking, the old man with extraordinary temperament shook his arm, and the heavy brush in his hand slipped between his fingers. The two maids beside him, who were in charge of grinding ink and placing the paper, were both shocked. In their eyes, the family master had always been calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. Why was the number one figure in Yi City, who was used to all kinds of storms, so nervous, quick? The old man looked excited, and his eyes flashed with many emotions. Immediately gather everyone in the family and head to the grace receiving platform. Yes, family master. The person who reported quickly agreed. The urgent ringing of the summoning bell instantly spread throughout the entire manor. For example, the military drums and bugles on the battlefield. Everyone put down what they were doing and immediately gathered. What's happening? On the training ground, a few children looked at Instructor Lu in confusion. Is there an enemy invasion? What nonsense are you talking about? Quickly gather. In an instant, all the people in the clan headed towards the backyard, which was guarded at all times. In the vast and spacious backyard, a magnificent octagonal pavilion stood there. In front of the octagonal pavilion, there was a dao platform with distinct levels. The layers of steps were paved with expensive white jade slabs. Moreover, a series of complicated runes were engraved on the vertical side of each step. What was surprising was that these rune secret scrolls, which were usually dim, were now flashing with an incomparably dazzling brilliance. This is? What's going on? Many young disciples of the younger generation were discussing in low voices, while the higher-ups of the family stood quietly under the platform with the family master. In everyone's impression, they had never seen the family master being so formal. In the next moment, those strange runes blossomed with an even more dazzling silver light. The runes twisted like rapidly growing vines, quickly spreading out and covering the surface of the stairs. The resplendent scene was astonishing. The originally smooth and bright white jade now appeared even more sparkling and translucent. The runes that surrounded from all directions rushed to the center of the platform from all 8 steps, like thousands of thorns spreading out. The earth trembled, and an incomparably luxurious silver light screen rose into the sky. The airflow in the entire backyard set off a strong spatial rhythm. Buzz, the vast and mighty air wave swept across the stage, causing everyone's pupils to shrink. In the next instant, the glaring light was rapidly withdrawn. Accompanied by a foreign aura that spread out, a few figures with extraordinary auras suddenly appeared on the stage. Benefactor. A voice full of excitement was heard, and then he knelt on both knees and said respectfully, "I'm Yao Chan, and I'm here waiting for Benefactor." Wow. This? The family master is? Benefactor? Subsequently, the group of Yao family elders behind Yao Chan also knelt on the ground to welcome the benefactor. We await Benefactor's arrival. What's going on? This puzzled voice came from the platform. Such a grand occasion as soon as he arrived? You scared this handsome Feng. Chu Hen was also slightly at a loss for what to do from this sudden scene. However, he quickly reacted. The benefactor that these people were referring to was him. Rise. A calm voice came from under the loose black coat. Thank you, benefactor. Family Master Yao Chan stood up, his eyes flashing with unconcealable excitement. It's been 20 years, and I finally see Benefactor again. This old man can die without regrets. Yao Chan nodded and took a deep breath. Then, he said, Benefactor, this way please. Chu Hen, Long Xuan, and the rest were still a little stunned to receive such a grand reception. At the same time that they followed the mysterious person down the stairs, all of them roughly observed the surrounding environment. They noticed the structure of the houses here was slightly different from the houses in the Eastern Victory State, and there were even some plants and flowers that they'd never seen before. What's this place? Han Ichuan asked. Because he came with his benefactor, Yao Chan was naturally very courteous. Haha, looks like it's this little brother's first time coming to our Yi City. Yi City? Han Ichuan was stunned, and Xiao Shaowan, Shifeng Zi, and the others who were by his side revealed surprised expressions as well. Xiao Shaowan asked probingly, It's Yi City from the Traverse region? Traverse region? Yao Chan was stunned when he heard this word, and then he laughed. Little brother, you really know how to joke. We're more than 100,000 miles away from the Traverse region, so how could it be Yi City from there? Then where is this place? Han Ichuan asked in a deep voice. Yao Chan was a little confused. He glanced at the mysterious person in black beside Chu Hen, and then he replied with slight confusion, This is the Mu Province. Chapter 977. What? Mu Province? The Mu Province closest to the border of the Eastern continent? Han Ichuan looked at Yao Chan, the head of the Yao family, in disbelief. Meanwhile, Chu Hen, Xiao Shaowan, Long Xuan, and the others were also astonished. Even the usually calm Shifeng Zi could not help but narrow his eyes. In the blink of an eye, they had teleported from the Eastern Victory Province to the Mu Province? Even the large-scale teleportation formations of the Thousand Worlds sect and the Palace of Jihua could not teleport over such a long distance. How did the other party do it? Chu Hen's face was full of confusion. Yao Chan was equally confused. Didn't these people come with their benefactor? Why were all of them acting like Xiao Bai, bewildered and confused, since they were all guests? Yao Chan explained patiently. This is indeed the Mu Province at the border of the Eastern continent. They were still shocked. Everyone looked at the mysterious person with complicated gazes. No wonder he rejected Han Ichuan's suggestion to not use the large-scale teleportation formation of the Palace of Jihua. It turned out that he had a better choice. The Eastern Victory Province was thousands of miles away from the Mu Province. Between the two were 2 large provinces, 3 small provinces, and countless empires of various sizes. Previously, Han Ichuan and the others thought that they would first use the large-scale teleportation formations of the Thousand Worlds sect or the Palace of Jihua to fly over the 2 provinces. Then, they would use the transfer stations between the various provinces to teleport. Then, they would advance step by step. However, they never expected that this mysterious person, whose name they did not even know, would teleport directly to the Mu Province. With such speed, he arrived 2 to 3 months earlier than usual. What a terrifying ability! Who was this person? Han Ichuan, Xiao Shaowan, and the others quietly looked at Chu Hen with questioning gazes. Under such circumstances, Chu Hen could only pretend that he did not see anything. After all, up until now, he only knew that Luo Mengchang called him Aunt Yu. Apart from that, he did not know anything else. Benefactor, I'll prepare a good room for you. Yao Chan then turned his attention back to the mysterious person. No need. I have important matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving immediately. The other party rejected him indifferently and continued. Yao Chan clenched his fists and asked solemnly, Do you want to leave the Eastern continent? Yes. I understand. Yao Chan understood tacitly and did not ask any unnecessary questions. He turned his gaze to the side and said to a middle-aged man behind him, Yao Qing, head to the Flowing Cloud platform immediately and purchase 9 boarding tokens. Yes, Patriarch. The middle-aged man called Yao Qing hurriedly promised, and then his figure flashed, transforming into a flowing shadow that leaped into the sky. Yao Yu, Yao Chan said to another man dressed like a manager. The man nodded knowingly. Then, he placed 2 fingers on his lips and blew a loud whistle. The loud and clear whistle spread out, and in the next moment, a few majestic roars of demonic beasts resounded through the sky. Subsequently, a wave of air that blotted out the sky and covered the earth spread out, and a strong wind blew. Impressively, a few majestic demonic beasts flew over from the direction of the Yao clan's last courtyard. The appearance of these demonic beasts was similar to the legendary unicorns. Their entire bodies were white and clean, and their 4 hooves were stepping on green flames. They were majestic like divine creatures. The only difference was that they did not have the white wings on their backs that unicorns possessed. Moreover, there were a total of 3 carriages behind these unicorns. Especially the carriage in the middle, it was like a house, and it was incomparably luxurious. It was even more luxurious than the carriages of the royal family. The demonic beasts pulled the luxurious carriage and directly stopped in front of Chu Hen and the others. Everyone in the Yao clan had a solemn expression on their faces. This was the highest form of treatment in the clan. Even the city governor of Yi City had never treated them this way before. "Benefactor, please take a seat." Yao Chan respectfully raised his hand and asked for instructions. The mysterious person nodded and lifted his foot to step onto the steps before entering the carriage that was like a wing. "Everyone, this way please." "Thank you." Chu Hen cupped his fists slightly, and then led the few people behind him into the carriage. The interior of the carriage was even more luxurious. The seats were neatly arranged, and the pastries and tea had long been arranged properly. "The tea is still hot?" Mu Feng casually picked up a cup of tea and took a sip in surprise. Not only that, even the pastries were extremely fresh. Every place was clean as if it had just been wiped. "Because I would get the servants to prepare these things every day. I was afraid that Benefactor wouldn't even have the time to take a sip of tea." Yao Chan, who was the last to enter, explained in a sincere and heartfelt manner. Everyone was shocked once again. They originally thought that Yao Chan had guessed that they would come, so he had prepared in advance. They did not expect this to be the reason. After so many years, he had always been the same. Everyone was secretly amazed. This Yao Chan was really a rare loyal person in the world. "Actually, you don't have to do this." A calm voice came from under the loose black clothes. Yao Chan shook his head slightly and looked up. "Back then, Benefactor, you saved our entire family. This small matter is not enough to repay even a fraction of the favor. Let's go," the mysterious man said. "Yes." Yao Chan turned around and lifted the curtain, then said to the steward in charge of driving the carriage, "Let's go." "Yes, Patriarch." At first, there was a slight tremble, but then it stabilized. A few single-horned demonic beasts stepped on green flames and rose into the air, pulling the luxurious carriage into the sky. Chu Hen and the others stood by the window, looking through the opened curtains at the row upon row of buildings in Yi City. Their hearts were somewhat moved. After all, just half an hour ago, they were still tens of millions of miles away in the Dongxing province. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived in the Mu province. Their minds were a little dazed. "That's the Yao family's carriage, right? Where are they going?" Wow, this extravagance has directly overshadowed the city lord's office. The citizens of Yi City all raised their heads to look at the gorgeous carriage moving in the sky. Each of them revealed looks of amazement and envy. Under the gaze of countless pairs of eyes, the carriage also quickly disappeared into the clouds in the sky. The atmosphere in the carriage was still relatively quiet. Perhaps because they were confused about the mysterious man's identity, Han Ichuan, Mu Feng, Haozi, and the others communicated with each other with some caution. It was only the first day they met, but the mysterious man had already brought such an incredible shock to everyone. They did not know what other unexpected things would happen in the future. Although Chu Hen had his doubts, because of Luo Mengchang, he still trusted this mysterious Aunt Yu very much. After nearly an hour of awkward atmosphere, the speed of the carriage gradually slowed down. At the same time, a very noisy sound came from outside. "Why is it so noisy outside?" Qiao Shaowan asked casually. Yao Chan smiled and said, "Because we're almost at the flowing cloud platform." "Naturally, it's a little noisy, flowing cloud platform?" This was already the second time she heard him say this. Then, Qiao Shaowan walked to the window and casually lifted the curtain. In an instant, a gust of cool air flowed into the room along with the noise. Everyone looked outside and saw that the carriage had already descended to a very low altitude. On the outside there were actually many tall and grand platforms built. On those platforms stood a dense crowd of people, carriages of all sizes, and demonic beasts that were used as mounts. Seeing that everyone was confused, Yao Chan spoke again. "The flowing cloud platform is actually a relay station." A transfer station? Qiao Xiaowan's big bright eyes widened. "It's a transfer station, but it's not a teleportation formation." "Then what is it?" Yao Chan smiled warmly. "You'll know when you get down there." As soon as he finished speaking, the carriage fell into a state of stillness and stopped on a high platform. Everyone paused for a moment before they lifted the curtain and walked out one after another. Whoosh! In the next moment, a sudden and clear aura and vision immediately rushed toward them. What appeared in front of everyone was an extremely vast world. Chu Hen's eyes widened, and then his pupils trembled, as if he had received a huge visual impact. The first thing that came into view was an incomparably huge ship. "This is..." The others were also shocked, as if they were standing under the feet of a huge monster. The total length of the ship was more than 5,000 meters, and the huge cabin was like a mountain. Its entire body was dark gold in color, and it was as sturdy as a fortress, giving off a feeling that it was indestructible and stable. It was this incomparably huge golden ship. It was actually floating more than 100 meters in the air, and below the body of the ship, there were many sturdy stone pillars that supported the sky. The stone pillars below were like stars surrounding the moon, supporting the huge ship in the air. Is this the flowing cloud ship that travels in the sky? Chapter 978. Is this the flowing cloud boat that can travel in the sky? Han Ichuan's face was filled with excitement. The giant space boat that was 5,000 meters long was like a mountain that stopped in the sky. Chu Hen and the others who had never seen such a shocking building before were shocked. Flowing cloud boat? Flying in the sky? After listening to Han Ichuan's words, the few of them finally realized the so-called transit station was surrounded by land. There was not even an ordinary body of water as far as their eyes could see, let alone a large body of water that could accommodate such a huge boat. "How do you know this is called the flowing cloud boat?" Qiao Shaowan asked. Han Ichuan raised his eyebrows and smiled proudly. "Not only do I know this is called the flowing cloud boat, but I also know that we're going to ride it to leave the eastern continent's border." "Why are we riding it?" "This fellow looks so big and stupid. I'm sure it can't be that fast." "You're wrong. The speed of the flowing cloud boat is not inferior to the speed of a powerhouse at the heavenly profound stage. However, the main reason is for safety." As Han Ichuan spoke, he instinctively glanced at Yao Chan, who was standing by the side. However, when he saw that Yao Chan did not correct him, he began to explain even more boldly. As everyone knows, there are many straits and vast seas outside the eastern continent. Due to the uniqueness of the terrain, many of the seas will form a chaotic convection wind. Coupled with the changes in the environment during the day and night, and the change in temperature caused by the eruption of some underwater volcanoes, the convection wind will gradually evolve into a very destructive and powerful convection wind storm. With the strength of an ordinary person, it's impossible for them to pass through. You sound like you're telling the truth. Where did you hear this from? Qiao Shaowan had a disdainful expression on her face. The others were skeptical as well. When Han Ichuan heard this, he immediately became anxious and quickly explained, I'm not lying to all of you. A few years ago, an elder from my palace of Jiuhua who had been traveling outside for a few years came back and told me this. If you don't believe me, you can ask clan leader Yao. Han Ichuan faced Yao Chan, haha. Yao Chan chuckled as he raised his left hand. What this little brother said is probably right. There is indeed a very threatening, destructive storm in the sea outside the eastern continent. If the storm's energy continues to form, even an eternal stage powerhouse would not dare to recklessly charge into it. Therefore, the best choice is still this drifting cloud boat. Did you hear that? That's what I said. Han Ichuan won the round. Qiao Shaowan pursed her lips in dissatisfaction before asking, since that's the case, isn't it better to just use the teleportation array? No matter how fast the flowing cloud boat was, it would not be able to outrun the teleportation array. However, as soon as Qiao Shaowan finished speaking, she realized that she had said something wrong. It would be extremely difficult to build a teleportation formation that traversed the eastern sea. Just the powerful energy fluctuations generated by the convective storms above the sea were enough to affect the normal operation of the teleportation formation. I'm sorry, I forgot that the area between the two is too chaotic, Qiao Shaowan hurriedly corrected herself. Yao Chan nodded with a smile. That's not all. Most importantly, there's a clear rule between the continents. Teleportation formations must not go beyond the boundary. In other words, the teleportation formation in the eastern continent can't be set up even 1 meter away from the boundary. When everyone heard this, they were even more shocked. Yao Chan had already determined that this was the first time these juniors had traveled so far away, so he patiently explained. The purpose of this rule is to protect the territorial rights of the continents, especially around the boundary. The management is very strict. To put it simply, we can't let outsiders from other places casually step into our territory. It's even more impossible for us to use the teleportation formation to come and go as we please. Yao Chan's explanation could be said to have hit the nail on the head and was easy to understand. Everyone could not help but feel enlightened. They were secretly amazed by the ingenious layout of this world. Chu Hen once again looked at the flowing cloud boat that was hovering in the air in front of him. The huge cabin of the boat could accommodate tens of thousands of people at a time. The airtight design and the impregnable appearance gave people a sense of security indeed. To be able to sit on it and sail above the boundless sea, that feeling was probably something that one's heart would be filled with longing and longing. I'm afraid the price of a ride is not cheap, right? Long Xuanxuang asked casually. 100 million high-grade origin crystal stones is the lowest price. Han Ichuan replied. The highest price is 10 billion high-grade origin crystal stones. What? 10 billion high-grade origin crystal stones for a ride on the flowing cloud boat? Although Chu Hen had already become a tycoon, he could not help but gasp in shock when he heard the high price. However, when he thought about it, the cost of a flowing cloud boat must have reached an unimaginable level. Coupled with the huge amount of energy needed to sail in the sky above the sea, the price was not difficult to accept. When will the flowing cloud boat depart? At this moment, the mysterious black-clad man had also walked out of the carriage. Yao Chan turned around and replied respectfully, Benefactor, please wait for a moment. Yao Qing should be back soon. As soon as he finished speaking, a familiar figure walked past the few high platforms in front and finally arrived in front of everyone in a hurry. Clan leader, benefactor, the person who came was the middle-aged man who had arrived earlier at the Yao clan, Yao Qing. There are only 7 boarding tokens left for the special classrooms. Therefore, I'll have to trouble both of you to stay in the superior rooms. Yao Qing apologetically took out 9 palm-sized rectangular crystal chips. The workmanship of the crystal chips was very exquisite. They were as thin as a cicada's wings and had very beautiful patterns engraved on them. 7 of the 9 crystal chips were black while the other 2 were red. Needless to say, the black crystal chips represented the highest grade boarding token. They would have the best treatment and cost 10 billion high-grade origin crystal stones. As for the red superior boarding token, it was slightly inferior compared to the special class boarding token. It cost 7 billion high-grade origin crystal stones. Looking at the slightly dazzling red crystal chips, Yao Chan hesitated slightly and said, "Go buy 2 special class boarding tokens from other passengers." This? Yao Cheng was a little hesitant. After all, those who could afford the special class boarding token were people with good family backgrounds. If he were to buy it from them again, he would definitely have to spend 2 or 3 times the original price, or even more. That would be too wasteful. No need. Chu Hen stopped him and reached out to take a red crystal chip. "I'll just stay in a superior room. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I want to stay next to brother Chu Hen." Yi Yao also took another red crystal chip. "Alright. Who knows what tricks you're trying to find your brother Chu Hen for?" As Mu Feng spoke, he casually took all the boarding passes and distributed them to the other people. A few light crystal cards cost a total of nearly 100 billion high-grade origin crystal stones. One could not help but shake their heads and laugh. However, there was not the slightest reluctance on Yao Chan's face. Instead, there was a bit of shame for not taking good care of them. Rumble! Suddenly, a wave of rumbling that sounded like thunder swept out from the horizon. Everyone was shocked, and their eyes swept toward the giant ship in front of them. They saw countless dazzling rays of holy light sprinkling down from the sky. Then, strange silver patterns suddenly flashed all over the body of the giant ship. The long and narrow patterns looked like ancient talisman patterns, but also like wanton silver lightning. As the earth trembled faintly, the stone pillars that supported the body of the ship actually sank at a slow speed, and shrank back into the ground. On the other hand, the giant ship was floating steadily in the air, like a meteorite in the sky. Clang! The sound of iron plates colliding and rubbing against each other was thunderous. Under countless expectant gazes, 3 passageways were pushed out from the left and right sides of the giant ship, and steps slowly descended from the passageways. It was a magnificent scene. From afar, it looked like a giant beast stretching out its 6 arms, extremely imposing. The steps that extended from each passageway landed neatly on a high platform below. Then, a dozen or so receptionists dressed like stewards flashed and landed at the entrance of the giant ship. "The flowing cloud ship is about to depart. Our destination is Whale Island City. Guests with boarding tokens, please board the ship," the leader of the receptionists shouted in a loud and clear voice. As soon as he finished speaking, the people who had landed on the surrounding high platforms swarmed toward the giant ship, and took out their boarding tokens to be inspected. "Benefactor, the special class boarding token and high class boarding token are at the first passageway." Yao Qing pointed at the passageway with the least number of people gathered. Everyone nodded. The mysterious person had no intention of staying, and said indifferently, "We can go now. Everyone, have a safe journey." Yao Chan cupped his fist. Chu Hen, Han Ichuan, Qiao Shaowan, and the others also raised their hands to return the gesture. "Many thanks for the hospitality, Patriarch Yao. Farewell. Farewell." After that, everyone boarded the flowing cloud ship from the first passageway with their boarding tokens in hand. Since they were all special class and high class boarding tokens, the receptionists were very polite, and they led them into the cabin with smiles on their faces. Looking at the back of the crowd disappearing into the passageway, the patriarch of the Yao clan heaved a sigh of relief, and a meaningful look appeared on his face. "The people that Benefactor brought are all not ordinary people. Patriarch, that person's name seems to be Chu Hen?" Yao Qing, who was standing at the side, said uncertainly. "Chu Hen?" The corner of Yao Chan's eyes narrowed slightly. This name sounded somewhat familiar. Then, his heart trembled violently, and his eyes widened. Chapter 979. In about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the number of people gathered at the flowing cloud platform had decreased by more than half. The crowd that held the boarding tokens entered the giant streamcloud ship in an orderly manner. Boarding time is over. Close the cabin door. Rumble, accompanied by a tremor that shook the earth, the mountain-like flowing cloud giant ship slowly retracted the 6 stairs that extended out like an ancient giant beast. The managers who were in charge of receiving guests also stepped onto the stairs and entered the cabin together with the retracted stairs. Buzz, a majestic wave of air swept out in all directions. The complicated runes on the body of the ship became brighter and brighter. It was like a wanton stream of light that spread all over the body of the ship. A chaotic cyclone filled the sky and earth, stirring up the clouds in the 9 heavens. An unshakable majestic aura surged into the sky. Under the countless gazes that were filled with astonishment, the 5,000-meter-long golden ship slowly rose into the sky. The dazzling runes were all activated and shone with extraordinary splendor. It was as if a meteor had suddenly appeared in the sky above the flowing cloud platform. Numerous crisscrossing mysterious rune arrays also appeared on the plaza below. An incomparable silver pillar of light rushed into the sky, urging the runes on the giant ship to operate faster. Buzz, majestic waves of air stacked up like tides, and strong winds howled. Following that, the flowing cloud golden ship continued to accelerate from slow to fast, speeding toward the eastern continent's border. The originally vast flowing cloud platform became even more spacious. The flowing cloud golden ship shuttled through the sky and quickly turned into a tiny black dot. Roar! The few single-horned demonic beasts of the Yao clan let out long howls, as if they were sending off Yao Chan on behalf of him. Chu Hen, the new third lord of the victorious eastern continent. Yao Chan nodded thoughtfully and muttered in a soft voice, "It seems like the outside of the eastern continent is destined to not be too peaceful. The 2 of you, this room and the one next to it will be your resting place. If you need anything, you can tell us at the end of the corridor." In the slightly dimly lit corridor, the walls on both sides were inlaid with luminous pearls for illumination. The floor was covered with clean and tidy blankets. The left and right sides of the corridor were separated rooms. The manager in charge of reception brought Chu Hen and Yi Yao to this room. Because both of them had top-class boarding tokens and the others had special-class boarding tokens, they were separated after boarding the ship. "I understand." Chu Hen nodded and glanced around. The space between the superior rooms was relatively large, and the environment here was also very good. It was quiet and not noisy. "In that case, I won't disturb your rest any longer. Just put your boarding tokens into the slot on the door, and you'll be able to enter." After the receptionist explained briefly, she bowed respectfully and left. Soon after, Chu Hen found the slot on the door and inserted the red crystal card into it. Buzz, dozens of bright patterns flickered on the door like vines of light. With a "Kacha" sound, the tightly shut door instantly opened a gap behind it. At the side, Yi Yao's eyes lit up. "Wow, this design is really amazing," Chu Hen faintly smiled. A layman would naturally not be able to see where the profoundness lay within, but as a symbol master, he could see through it with a single glance. This was merely a simple restriction that had been set up using a symbol technique. Moreover, the boarding token had a symbol inscription that could undo the restriction. Therefore, once the crystal card was placed within, it could be opened, of course. Although it wasn't a complicated trick, Chu Hen couldn't help but admire the designer of this form. If one didn't leave the victorious East State, one would never know how many new and interesting things there were in the outside world. Chu Hen pushed open the door and walked in. The inside was more spacious than he had imagined. The room was very bright, with a clean bed, a chair, a round table, and fresh pastries and hot tea that had just been prepared. Not bad. It's just like a restaurant. Yi Yao didn't intend to return to her room immediately. She jumped in happily and looked around curiously. Chu Hen couldn't help laughing. He shook his head and said with a smile, "I spent 7 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones. Isn't it possible?" That's true. Yi Yao curled her lips and continued to look around. Chu Hen closed the door helplessly. This girl acted as if she was here for a sightseeing trip. She didn't have any guard up at all. Brother Chu Hen, come here quickly, we can see the outside from here. Oh! Chu Hen was slightly startled. He then walked to Yi Yao's side and saw that there was a window about the size of a plate on the wall in front of them. The window was sealed by some kind of material that was similar to glass. Through the glass, they could see the scenery outside. It's so high, Yi Yao exclaimed. From the window, they could see that the flowing cloud golden boat was shuttling over a mountain range. The lush mountains and forests were faintly discernible in the clouds, and the majestic peaks seemed a little small at this moment. It's so smooth I can't even feel it moving, Yi Yao said. It's really magical, Chu Hen replied. Then, a trace of thoughtfulness flashed in his eyes. He said, Little Yao, go and have a rest first. I'll go out for a while. Yi Yao was startled at first, but she soon understood what Chu Hen was going to do. She then nodded obediently. After a while, in the special VIP area, the decorations here were even grander and more luxurious than those in the upper-class area. The carpet on the floor was made of the extremely expensive mink fur. Although the corridor was longer and wider, the number of rooms here was only about half of those in the upper-class area. As soon as Chu Hen walked here, a creaking sound was heard. The door not far away from him opened, and a cold and elegant face came into view. When their eyes met, Long Xuanxuang was slightly startled. I'm here to see Senior Nether. Which room does she live in? Chu Hen asked. Long Xuanxuang's beautiful eyes rippled slightly, and then she pointed to the innermost room in the long corridor. Chu Hen nodded and walked over there directly. Hee. A soft knocking sound was heard. Chu Hen called out softly, Senior. Come in. A calm and indifferent voice sounded in his ears. Chu Hen gently pushed the door open and entered. The room's structure was exquisite and elegant. It was divided into a living room and a bedroom. Be it the layout or the size, it was much better than the upper-class guest room. However, Chu Hen's attention was not on this. To him, it did not matter where he lived. He saw the other person standing quietly by the window. Her gaze under the black robe was calmly looking at the clouds outside. Senior. You can call me Guyu, the other person said calmly. Guyu? That's her name? Chu Hen did not dwell on this. He looked up and went straight to the point. Senior Guyu, where is Meng Chang? Guyu turned to the side, revealing her fair face and a lock of beautiful hair under the black robe. She could be in 3 places. 3 places? Chu Hen wrinkled his eyebrows and revealed a puzzled expression. The tunnels created by the space-devouring hole are not in a single location. They change randomly. I've investigated and calculated, and have roughly locked onto 3 places. Where? Chu Hen was slightly excited. Guyu paused, then said in a low voice, The first is the desolate sword ancient land, the second is the tomb of the immortal and devil, and the third is in the Deep Star province of the Midland desolate sword ancient land, tomb of the immortal and devil, Deep Star province. Chu Hen murmured these names. It seemed that the search was much more difficult than he had imagined. However, Chu Hen quickly made up his mind. He had to find Meng Chang even if he had to run to the ends of the earth. Where is the desolate sword ancient land? I have a suggestion. Guyu did not answer Chu Hen immediately. Senior, please speak. Split up. What? I'll go to the desolate sword ancient land, you guys go to the tomb of the immortal and devil. One of these 2 places is in the south, and the other is in the north. But how do we know if we've found Meng Chang? Chu Hen asked. It's simple. Regardless of whether we've found her or not, we'll go to the 3rd place. Upon hearing this, Chu Hen suddenly understood. If they found Meng Chang, they could go to the 3rd place to meet up. If they couldn't find her, it meant that she was at the last place. Chapter 980. Whether it's the desolate sword ancient land or the tomb of the immortal and devil, they're not good places. The only thing that's not right is your life and death. Gu Yu's tone was very calm. Rather than saying that she was worried about Chu Hen's life, it was more like she was afraid that something might happen to Chu Hen, and she wouldn't be able to answer to her. After a short silence, Chu Hen's eyes flashed with determination. He replied solemnly, "As long as I can find Mengchang as soon as possible, I don't mind putting myself in danger. Let's do as Senior said. We'll split up. You go to the desolate sword ancient land, and I'll go to the tomb of the immortal and devil." Gu Yu turned slightly and faced Chu Hen. It was difficult to see her entire face under the black hat, but her delicate chin and red lips could be vaguely seen. She said slowly, "Since that's the case, let's split up at Whale Island City. Do I need my friends to follow Senior? No need, I'm used to being alone. Just take care of yourselves. Also, let me give you a piece of advice." Gu Yu raised her head and opened her red lip. "Even though you're extremely talented and have a saint physique bloodline, there are many geniuses who are better than you in the 3000 world. Don't be impulsive and act within your means. I'll remember Senior's words. Go!" Gu Yu said. Chu Hen nodded and left the room politely. Creak. Chu Hen gently closed the door and heaved a sigh of relief. He turned around and saw Long Xuanxuang standing not far away waiting for him. Seeing Chu Hen come out, Long Xuanxuang asked, "How is it? Where is she?" Chu Hen shook his head. "The area we need to search is huge. I only know the general area. It's all right, there's hope as long as we know the coordinates. Moreover, Mengchang's cultivation isn't weak. She should be able to protect herself." Long Xuanxuang comforted him softly. Chu Hen smiled. He wasn't a pessimistic person, but the guilt in his heart made him want to find her urgently. The two of them had only taken a few steps when a loud noise came from the room next to them. It was Mu Feng and Haozi. Chu Hen was taken aback. Long Xuanxuang said casually, "That seems to be Senior Shifeng Zi's room." "Oh? Why are they there?" "Hee, Senior Shi, I have a favor to ask of you." "Mind your own business. You're the #1 inscription master in the 100 Nations state, you're definitely amazing in the field of alchemy. A piece of cake." Hee, it's like this, Senior Old Shi. In the entire team, everyone has reached the Sky Profound stage, and only I and Thief Haozi are still stuck at the peak of the 9th level of the Earth Profound stage. It's rather embarrassing. Why don't you refine a Heaven Stage Battle Heart pill for us to help us? You don't want to see us dragging you down, right? No problem. Shifeng Zi's especially straightforward voice sounded out. Wah haha, that's great. Senior, you're really a person of virtue and prestige. You're heavier than Mount Tai, beautiful, intelligent, and a mainstay. Don't be happy too early. I can help you refine the pill, but prepare the materials for refining the pill yourself. Of course, I've already prepared them, hee. Along with Mu Feng's complacent laughter, a large pile of miscellaneous items was piled on the table. Shifeng Zi coldly glanced at him, still missing 2 things. Is it bad? Since you doubt me, then don't refine it. No, how could I dare doubt you? I just heard from the receptionist outside that there's a treasure exchange on this enormous ship. What do you lack? We'll go and buy it right away. Very quickly, the room door opened. Mu Feng and Haozi each held a piece of paper and rushed out. Why are the 2 of you here? Do you want to take a stroll in the front cabin? I heard that there's a lot of interesting things there. Haozi quickly said. Before Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang could answer, Mu Feng pulled Haozi and ran. We'll go first. You can find us later. After a casual greeting, the 2 of them slipped away like a wisp of smoke. Chu Hen smiled. These 2 were really smart. They actually knew to come and fawn on Shifeng Zi. Soon after, Chu Hen glanced at Han Yichuan and Qiao Xiaowan's rooms. He did not intend to disturb them. Then, he left the VIP area with Long Xuanxuang. Chu Hen also told Long Xuanxuang about the information that Gu Yu had just told him. Long Xuanxuang nodded in agreement with the suggestion to split up after reaching Whale Island City. After all, they had so many helpers by their side. Even if it was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, they could still try. As the two chatted, they returned to the upper-class area where Chu Hen lived. In the long corridor, they saw Yi Yao squatting at the door of her room. "Little Yao, what are you doing?" "Big brother Chu Hen, you're back. Big sister Xuanxuang, you're here too." Yi Yao raised her head and waved at the two of them with a smile. Then, she pointed at a furry little thing at her feet. "Come over and look. I don't know where this little cat came from." "Little cat?" The two of them couldn't help but be startled. They walked up to take a closer look, and saw that the little thing beside Yi Yao was indeed similar to a little cat. It had a light and nimble body, and a furry head, but what was surprising was that the fur on this little cat's head was actually black and white. The black and white fur was distributed in a special way, causing its face to look like a Tai Chi pattern. "How is it, Big brother Chu Hen, isn't this little cat especially handsome?" Yi Yao gently rubbed its head with an innocent smile on her face. And when it saw Chu Hen and Long Xuanxuang coming over, that black and white cat actually revealed a vigilant look. Even its pupils flashed with a hint of evil charm. "Don't be nervous, don't be nervous. It's one of us, not a bad guy." Yi Yao hurriedly comforted this black and white cat. It seemed to understand her words and slightly let down its guard. It then shrank back a little and raised its head to look at Yi Yao. Then, with a whoosh, it turned into a shadow and disappeared into the corner of the corridor. "So fast." Long Xuanxuang looked at Chu Hen with some surprise. Chu Hen also nodded thoughtfully. "There's a very subtle wave of demonic power in its body, and for it to appear here, it's definitely not an ordinary demonic beast. But why would it appear by Yi Yao's side? That was a mystery. Big brother Chu Hen, did you ask where big sister Mengshang is?" Yi Yao was looking forward to getting down to business. "Yes, I did." Immediately, Chu Hen briefly told Yi Yao what he had just told Long Xuanxuang. After knowing that they had to look for 3 places, Yi Yao could not help but feel a little melancholy. The road ahead was vast, and she could only believe in Luo Mengshang. "Let's go to the front cabin," Chu Hen said with a smile. He did not want to infect others with his melancholy. It was not a bad thing to relax in a suitable place. Long Xuanxuang and Yi Yao naturally agreed. Then, they followed the road signs and headed towards the front cabin. The giant flowing cloud ship was more than 5,000 meters long, and the space inside was huge. Apart from the many resting rooms for the passengers, there were also a variety of places to eat, drink, and play. For example, there would definitely be a lot of places to trade treasures and rare elixirs. After all, those who could board the giant flowing cloud ship were not poor. After turning a few corners, Chu Hen, Long Xuanxuang, and Yi Yao climbed up a staircase. In front of the staircase, there was a red carpet that led directly to a door. 2 young maids dressed beautifully opened the door at the same time and greeted them with a sweet voice. Chapter 981. Welcome to the Central Hall. There are all kinds of treasures and equipment for you to choose from. Please come in. 2 beautifully dressed young maids had sweet smiles on their faces as they opened the door at the side at the same time. In an instant, a dazzling and luxurious light filled the vision of Chu Hen and the others. They saw that on the other side of the door was an extremely spacious inner hall, a luxurious lamp hung high up in the center, and the surrounding walls were equipped with crystal-like illumination treasures. Neat counters were arranged in a circle, and there was a conspicuous notice board on the counter. On the board were a series of names such as elixir, weapon, martial skill, secret technique, rune technique, and so on. Perhaps it was because the interior of the hall was relatively large, but the people inside were scattered. However, everyone was dressed in a noble manner. Shortly after, Chu Hen walked in with Long Xuanxuang and Yi Yao. As soon as the 3 of them stepped in, they attracted the attention of many people. After all, there were 2 beautiful figures beside Chu Hen. One was elegant and refined, while the other was nimble and moving. Any normal man would not be able to help but take a few more glances. "Brother Chu-hen, do you want to buy anything?" Yi Yao asked as she looked around curiously. "Let's take a look first." Chu-hen was more casual. After looking around, he did not see Mu Feng and Haozi. He did not know where they went. "I wonder what you 3 customers need? We have good elixir and weapons here." An old man dressed in luxurious clothes walked in front of Chu-hen and the others with a smile. His slightly narrowed eyes flashed with a hint of slyness. Chu-hen hesitated for a moment before asking casually, "Do you have metal materials?" "Yes, what grade of materials do you need?" "The higher the better, this old man understands. Please go to the 2nd floor." After speaking, the old man directly led Chu-hen and the other 2 to a building that was closer to the inner side. After ascending the stairs, what appeared in front of Chu-hen was an even more gorgeous and dazzling hall. There were obviously more people here, and every one of them was bright and beautiful. "Most of them are pattern scribes," Chu-hen murmured softly. This was what surprised Chu-hen. With a glance, he saw that more than 80% of the people in the hall were emitting Reiki energy waves. Some of them had even reached the Heavenly Pattern Master realm. "Sir, you're also going to participate in the Heavenly Talisman battle, right?" The old man leading Chu-hen's group suddenly said. "Heavenly Talisman competition?" The 3 of them were stunned for a moment. "What Heavenly Talisman battle?" Long Xuan asked casually. "Aren't you going to Whale Island City to compete?" This time, it was the elder's turn to be astonished. Chu-hen's eyelids twitched slightly as he shook his head. "It's true that we're going to Whale Island City, but it's just a transfer to another place. So that's how it is." This old man has been rude. "But what is the Heavenly Talisman battle you mentioned?" Yi Yao asked curiously. As the name suggests, it's a runic technique competition. It's held once every 3 years, and the organizers are the city lord of Whale Island City and a few other forging families. Since there are no specific restrictions, any pattern scribe below the age of 30 and with a certain level of ability can participate. Most of the people here are pattern scribes heading to Whale Island City from the eastern continent. I thought that you guys would be the same. What's the reward for the winner? Yi Yao seemed to be very interested, even though she knew nothing about runes. Of course, she was just curious. The elder stroked his beard and laughed. "Of course there's a reward. Whale Island City is a very wealthy region. Moreover, the city lord, Qi Ming, broke through to the ancient eternal realm last month. With such a joyous event, the rewards for this year's Heavenly Talisman battle will definitely be exceptionally generous." Although this was the first time he had heard of the Heavenly Talisman battle, the fact that so many pattern scribes would come from afar every time it was held was enough to show its charm. But to Chu-hen, this sort of thing didn't have much to do with him. He only cared about one thing at the moment, and that was to find Luo Mengchang. When he reached Whale Island City, he would directly transfer to the Flowing Cloud Golden Boat and head to the Immortal and Devil Tomb. After a simple exchange, the old man brought Chu-hen to the side of a counter. "Little Zhou, give this customer a list," Zhou Donghuang said. "All right." A man behind the counter swiftly took out a booklet with golden edges. "Customer, please take a look. We have everything on the list." Chu-hen nodded and flipped open the golden booklet. A list of names appeared before his eyes. It had to be said that the variety of equipment on the booklet made Chu-hen gasp in surprise. However, the prices on the booklet were really frighteningly expensive. At the very least, it was 3 to 4 times more expensive than outside. Some of the more popular rare metals were even 10 times more expensive. It was really shady. Chu-hen shook his head inwardly. But for the current him, this amount of spending wasn't considered high. Black crystal, firestone, 5 coppers, iron gold, demon eagle rock. He listed more than 30 kinds of rare metals and nearly 100 kinds of high-grade, expensive materials. Chu-hen didn't even blink. The elder at the side was also startled by Chu Hen's extravagance. He hurriedly helped the young man behind the counter take out the items for trade in a flurry. Customer, please read slowly. Where are the fish wood flint stone? After a series of rummaging through the cabinets and cabinets, the entire counter was directly filled with items. The others in the hall also looked over in astonishment. Such a large pile of rare and precious metal ores was probably worth more than 200 billion high-grade primal crystals. There weren't many people present who could pay so many primal crystals in one go. Customer, it's a total of 215 billion high-grade primal crystals. After deducting the discount, it's only 200 billion high-grade primal crystals. The elder's tone was obviously much more polite than before. Wow, 200 billion high-grade primal crystals was equivalent to the price of 20 special-class boarding tokens. Everyone present was secretly amazed, and couldn't help but pay more attention to Chu Hen and the others. Chu Hen casually took out a storage ring and put it on the counter. You can count it. The elder took it with both hands and said with a smile, no need. With your extravagance and demeanor, this old man can rest assured. Hearing this, it caused the surrounding people to look at him with disdain. This old bastard really knew how to flatter. He said he could rest assured, but in fact, it was because the flowing cloud golden boat was their territory. If they dared to fake it, they wouldn't be able to run away. The two of them quickly put the metal ores on the table into the storage equipment, and then handed it to Chu Hen. Customer, do you need anything else? In the elder's view, Chu Hen was simply a fat sheep, and he would kill as much as he could. Chu Hen looked at Long Xuanxuang and Yi Yao. What do you want? Long Xuanxuang shook her head. Yi Yao also did the same. No, brother Chu Hen, the things here are so expensive, it's okay. Before I left, sect leader Gong Yang gave me 1 trillion high-grade primal crystals. Just tell me what you want. There's really no need. Why don't we go get something to eat? Yi Yao's eyes lit up with excitement. All right. Chu Hen turned around and said to the elder, we want to have a rest. The stairs on the left lead to the lounge. We'll prepare the best tea and pastries for you. The elder immediately said to a maid not far away, treat these 3 distinguished guests well. Yes. Soon after, under the guidance of the young maid, Chu Hen and the other 2 went up another staircase. There was a long passageway in front of the staircase, and there were windows on the right wall of the passageway. Unlike the windows in the room, these windows could be opened. Bright light and cool wind blew in from the outside, giving off a salty and moist feeling. When they walked past the window, they could see that the flowing cloud golden boat had already left the mountain area and reached the sky above a body of water. Have we reached the sea? Chu Hen asked. Young master, the flowing cloud golden boat has already entered the sea outside the eastern land half an hour ago. The maid explained respectfully. Chu Hen nodded and did not say anything else. After walking through the passageway in front, they arrived at the so-called lounge. The decorations in the resting hall were exceptionally elegant and quaint. Even though there were many people inside, there was a quiet atmosphere to it. Hey, the old man and the beauty over there, over here. As soon as he entered, an extremely discordant voice was heard. Needless to say, other than Mu Feng, who else would embarrass themselves in such an environment? They saw Mu Feng and Haozi sitting in the innermost seat. Chu Hen wanted to pretend that he did not know them, but he was afraid that they would cause a commotion. Therefore, he brought the 2 of them over. Why are you guys so late? Take a seat, take a seat. The pastries and tea here are all free. That girl over there, give me 10 more pastries and tea. As soon as he finished speaking, the people around him looked at him with disdain. Fortunately, Chu Hen and the others were already used to it, so they just sat together casually. Not long after they sat down, a gentle female voice came from inside the cabin. The flowing cloud golden boat is about to enter the storm area. What? Everyone was slightly shocked. We've already entered the storm area? How can it be so fast? It's normal. The sea is different from the land, so anything can happen. The people around them discussed in low voices, but most of them were still very calm. It seemed that they were already used to this kind of thing. Immediately after, the maids in charge of serving the guests quickly ran to the window and took out a white crystal card that looked like a boarding pass. Buzz buzz! The crystal card emitted a bright light pattern, and the frame of the window flashed with spirit patterns. Then, a layer of light rushed out, and the opened windows were immediately sealed by a layer of solid transparent glass. The scenery outside was still clearly visible, but the airflow could not enter the room at all. What a strong restriction! Chu Hen secretly nodded. He had to admit that every detail of the flowing cloud golden boat could be said to be perfect. Clang! At this time, the faint sound of rolling thunder could be heard outside. Through the glass window, one could see that the sky in the area ahead had already turned dark. The wantonly surging ocean storm swept across the sky, and the sky above the 9 heavens surged with thunder and lightning. The boundless rain almost overturned the vast sea. It was clearly a blue sky and white clouds a second ago, but in the blink of an eye, it had turned into a whirlwind. This was the first time Chu Hen, Yi Yao, and the others had left the eastern continent, so they were somewhat surprised. Rumble! Chapter 982. Rumble! The storm raged and huge waves rose to the sky. The flowing cloud golden boat, which was as huge as a mountain, was like a fearless wild beast as it directly collided into the endless torrents of wind. In an instant, millions upon millions of raindrops and hailstones smashed onto the ship like a thunderbolt. Buzz, inside the ark, the cabin shook slightly, but it soon became stable again. Outside the window, it was as if day had turned into night. The crackling storm was like rocks smashing against the window glass, like a ferocious ghost slamming against the door. The waves on the sea are huge. Come, let's continue drinking tea. Most of the people in the lounge were already used to this, so they were very calm. Chu Hen, Yi Yao, Mu Feng, and the others were only a little surprised, as if it was their first time here. Oh right, Chu Hen, you went to find someone to ask about young lady Dreamy Dress whereabouts, right? Haozi suddenly thought of this matter. Mu Feng also raised his head, and a trace of solemnity flashed in his eyes. Chu Hen nodded and said, when we reach Whale Island City, Senior Gu you will go to the desolate sword ancient plains alone, and we will go to the Tomb of Immortals and Demons. Tomb of Immortals and Demons? Haozi's expression turned serious. That's not a good place. How do you know? Isn't this your first time traveling? Mu Feng glanced at him. I heard my master, Thief Rat God, mention it before. The Tomb of Immortals and Demons is a very ancient battlefield. Rumor has it that a very cruel war broke out between the god and demon race a long time ago. Countless demon and human experts were buried there, and there's even a red river formed by demon blood that hasn't dried up yet. It's definitely a forbidden place that's hard to set foot in. Holy sh*t, is it that exaggerated? Your master is lying to you, right? Mu Feng said with a frown. Haozi shook his head a little helplessly. Although my master's name is not pleasant to the ears, he has traveled to countless places in his life. His knowledge is extensive and it is difficult for us to compare with him. Moreover, my master has no need to lie to me. Is this place really that dangerous? Mu Feng's frown deepened. The atmosphere became slightly silent. Chu Hen's gaze deepened as he raised the teacup in his hand. He also knew that Mu Feng was not afraid because of the dangers in the tomb of the immortal and devil. Instead, he was worried that if Luo Mengchang was truly in the tomb of the immortal and devil, her situation would more or less cause people to worry. Everyone, don't be too nervous. Sister Mengchang only said that she might be in the tomb of the immortal and devil. There's a high chance that she's in the other two places as well. If we work together, we'll definitely be able to find her. Come, let's toast to Big Brother Chu Hen and Sister Mengchang's reunion. Yao raised her teacup and smiled faintly. Haha, you're right. We'll definitely find her. Mu Feng also swept away the heavy atmosphere and lightened the mood. It had to be said that the pastries here were delicious. The few of them chatted and almost forgot about the time. However, the storm outside was getting more and more intense. Not only did it show no signs of stopping, it was getting more and more ferocious. Through the window, they could clearly see the rolling thunder clouds and the terrifying lightning bolts that pierced through the sky. There were even tornadoes and hurricanes whizzing in the sky above the rolling sea. The strong airflow rotated rapidly, forming a destructive cyclone. Even a drop of rain would become an incomparably sharp blade under the influence of the cyclone. He had no doubt that anyone with insufficient cultivation would probably be instantly torn into pieces by the powerful storm if they were to trespass into it. While the outside was earth-shattering, the inside of the cabin was calm. All the violent impacts were blocked outside. The defense of the flowing cloud golden boat was impregnable. It could be said to be an absolute defense. The force behind this is not ordinary, Haozi said meaningfully. Mu Feng smiled and said, I'm afraid that even the three great forces in the victorious East region cannot make this flowing cloud golden boat. Chu Hen could not deny this. Every detail of the flowing cloud golden boat, from the inside to the outside, was exquisitely designed. With such a huge appearance, and being able to take care of every aspect, just the manufacturing cost alone was enough to make countless forces shake their heads secretly. Of course, it could not be said that the great forces in the victorious East region could not make this kind of flowing cloud boat. It could only be said that there was no need to make such a huge boat. After all, this kind of thing could not be used on land. It's that kitten again. Yi Yao's surprised voice attracted the attention of Chu Hen, Long Xuanxuang and the others. They saw a small beast with black and white stripes walking towards them carefully. This cat is so handsome. Looking at the kitten's fur that resembled the Tai Chi yin-yang diagram, Mu Feng also revealed a surprised expression. That's right. It's also my first time seeing this kind of kitten. With that, Yi Yao left her seat and squatted on the ground. She clapped her hands lightly and said, We meet again. Come here. Strangely, after the black and white cat saw Yi Yao, the vigilance in its eyes obviously decreased. It actually looked as if it had seen a familiar person and slowly walked towards her with nimble steps. So obedient. Yi Yao's eyes curved and revealed an innocent smile. Then, she stretched out her hand to stroke the kitten's head. But at this moment a cold shout filled with disdain was heard. Remove your filthy hands. Swish. At the same time, the sound of a sharp weapon slicing through the air could be heard. Unexpectedly, Yi Yao's expression changed slightly. The pupils of Chu Hen and the others shrank coldly. At the same time, Mu Feng slammed the table and stood up. At the same time, a dazzling blue light appeared in his hand. Ding! With a crisp sound and a string of sparks, a sharp dart shot out and pierced deeply into the ceiling. Hua! The sudden scene caused the atmosphere in the lounge to tense up. They saw Mu Feng standing behind Yi Yao with the Buddha demon sword in his hand. He looked displeased. So King Vicious. Are you trying to cripple my sister's hand? A trace of coldness flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. The other party didn't even think about the consequences of that move just now. It was definitely not a joke. What a joke. Who allowed you to touch it? The arrogant voice sounded again. The ones who spoke were two women at the table diagonally opposite them. The two women were dressed seductively, and their clothes were also very charming. They looked like they were spoiled and arrogant. Behind the two of them stood a few strong and powerful guards. It was obvious that they had some background. However, background was background. Although Chu Hen didn't want to cause trouble, he couldn't tolerate the other party's vicious attack on Yi Yao. It's just a touch. There's no need to hurt her, right? Chu Hen said coldly. Faced with this situation, Yi Yao hurriedly tried to mediate. Big brother Chu Hen, it's okay. I'm fine. The current Yi Yao was already an expert at the Sky Profound realm. Even if Mu Feng hadn't made a move earlier, That dart wouldn't have been able to hurt her too much. At most, it would have only scratched the flesh on the back of her hand. But even this was enough to make Chu Hen angry. In response to Chu Hen's question, the woman who spoke just now giggled. "I'm really sorry, but Noni is my young master's pet. Furthermore, my young master is a bit of a germaphobe. Things that other people have touched will make him feel uncomfortable, especially people of unknown origins. Please take care of your hands. Next time, I won't just be throwing darts, neat freak?" Mu Feng sneered and scolded. "I don't think you're a neat freak. You're sick, aren't you?" Hearing this, the other party was instantly angered. Chapter 983. I gave you face, yet you don't want it. Slap his mouth. They immediately flew into a rage at the slightest disagreement. The two arrogant young women widened their charming eyes as they furiously shouted while pointing at Mu Feng. Yes, the guards beside him also revealed ferocious expressions. Without saying anything, they summoned their spears and thrust them at Mu Feng. Facing their fierce attacks, Mu Feng sneered. He raised the Buddha demon sword in his hand and slashed out a sword arc. The blue sword arc was like a sharp crescent moon saber that followed the momentum boom. Along with the sound of heavy power, a powerful sword aura swept out. Chaotic sword patterns splashed out. How could the guards be a match for Mu Feng? They were directly pushed back by the powerful sword aura. But seeing that Mu Feng's cultivation was not ordinary, the two seductive women became even more furious. One of the women spat again. "Noni, kill this lowly savage for me." Woo! As soon as she finished speaking, the black and white cat suddenly burst out with an especially shocking demonic power. Two cyclones, one black and one white, rose in a crisscrossing manner. A dazzling light was released from its body, and its cold vertical pupils revealed a chilling glint. Swoosh! It directly pounced at Mu Feng. Buzz! In the short but rapid movement, the black and white cat's body rapidly enlarged, and the claws that reached for Mu Feng also became as sharp as the claws of a powerful tiger. Mu Feng's eyes turned cold, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. He condensed his palm, and the Buddha demon's sword immediately surged with a scorching blue flame. Bang! Light and shadow intersected, and the sword and claws collided. Blue sparks flew like dust, and a mighty wave of air stacked up. The teacups and plates on the table were all shattered into pieces. Thud! The black and white cat landed firmly on the ground, and the flame on its body did not decrease. Mu Feng frowned slightly, and saw that the blue flame surrounding the sword had actually weakened a little. "Humph, you evil creature, you're too much. I'll chop you up today." Mu Feng was also infuriated. An even more robust aura pervaded the air, and the Buddha's demonic sword in his hand rapidly became thick and heavy. Streaks of chi patterns circled around like divine radiance, as if he was holding a section of the heaven's rainbow blade. Woo! The black and white cat, who had turned into a fierce tiger, looked even more majestic. It was completely different from how cute and nimble it was just now. Light patterns flowed around its body, and they quickly gathered to form an illusory yin-yang diagram. It was actually the power of yin and yang? The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, a little surprised. Buzz! Following that, the illusory yin-yang array actually split into two. The black fish and the black fish separated and landed on the back of the black and white ocelot, forming a pair of strange light wings. The pair of light wings were black and white, showing an extraordinary aura. Could this be a yin-yang beast? Someone quickly saw through the true identity of the Yao beast. No wonder it can control the power of yin and yang. It turns out to be a yin-yang beast. Whose pet is it? The tense atmosphere that could erupt at any moment did not affect the other people's attitude of watching a good show and enjoying the show. Looking at the transformed yin-yang beast, Mu Feng also activated the power of the sword demon's bloodline. At this time, Yi Yao hurriedly stepped in between the two. "Don't hurt it," Mu Feng frowned. "What are you doing? This evil creature attacked me first. Yi Yao looked at the yin-yang beast and said, "Let's not fight, and I won't touch you again. Go back to your master." The yin-yang beast stared coldly at Yi Yao, and a dark light flashed in its eyes. Yi Yao pursed her lips and shook her head lightly. Then, something astonishing happened. The yin-yang beast's eyes actually became a lot kinder. Then, it slowly took a step back. When they saw this, the two seductive women behind them frowned. "Noni, I told you to kill them. Didn't you hear me?" Roar. The yin-yang beast let out a deep roar and approached Yi Yao and the others. Mu Feng wanted to push Yi Yao away, but she stubbornly stood her ground, looking at the yin-yang beast with a pair of big eyes full of trust. "You won't hurt us, and neither will we." Haozi and Long Xuanxuang were slightly nervous, and only Chu Hen was deep in thought. "Noni." Seeing that the yin-yang beast didn't make a move, the two women behind shouted again. The yin-yang beast shook its head and looked at the two women, as if it was in a difficult position. "Bastard! Do you want to be whipped?" The two women were angry and annoyed. "Everyone stop!" Suddenly, a gentle voice came from the other side of the cabin. The two seductive women's faces were filled with joy, and they saw a young figure with a rather elegant temperament waving a folding paper fan as he walked into the lounge. "Hee, everyone, please calm down. If you blow a big hole in the cabin, we will have to swim back." The man was fair and handsome, and his body exuded a scholarly aura. The two seductive women hurriedly ran over, each of them hugging one of the man's arms, and immediately put on a pitiful look. "Young master, you're finally here. Someone bullied us just now. Luckily you came in time, or else who knows what these people would do." The young man's coquettish voice and bashful posture could be said to give people goosebumps, and his pretentious manner could not help but make people despise him. The young man did not look angry at all, and instead looked at Chu Hen and the others with a smile. "Everyone, I am really sorry. My two maids are a little unruly and willful. If they have offended you in any way, please forgive them. Ha 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 ha." Mu Feng immediately laughed. "I was wondering which family's pampered young mistress, so in this day and age, two servants can also be so rude and domineering. Bastard, who are you calling servant?" The two women were about to flare up again, but they were stopped by the smiling young man. He smiled and said, "Your Excellency is right, I did not discipline them well, please forgive me, Your Excellency." Looking at the other party's humble smile and sincere tone, the anger in Mu Feng's heart also subsided a little. "Humph, your words are quite pleasant to hear. Since that is the case, then let's forget about what happened just now. Hee, many thanks for your magnanimity." The young man was still humble, and then he waved at the yin-yang beast. Noni, the yin-yang beast, immediately walked towards the other party, and at the same time, its strong and mighty body rapidly shrunk under the cover of a brilliant light. When it returned to the man's side, it had already changed back to its previous nimble form. The man squatted down, raised his hand, and gently stroked the yin-yang beast's soft fur, a doting smile on his face. The yin-yang beast also seemed to enjoy it like an obedient kitten. Just when everyone quietly relaxed, a loud bang sounded out, and the sound of bones breaking caused everyone's heartstrings to tremble. Along with a mournful cry, a live figure directly flew out and heavily hit the wall, splashing a dazzling amount of blood. What? This sudden scene directly shocked everyone present, and Yi Yao's delicate body trembled violently, her eyes widened, and she could not help but cover her mouth with her hands. Chu Hen, Long Xuanxuang, Mu Feng, Haozi, and the rest of the people in the hall all had a look of astonishment on their faces. They saw that the kitten-like yin-yang beast fell to the foot of the wall, and a steady stream of blood flowed out. Such a ruthless method. "Why did you do this?" Yi Yao immediately felt a chill down her spine, and she quickly ran towards the yin-yang beast, but the guards did not say much, and directly raised their long spears to block the other party. The young man was still smiling, and his smile was especially humble, with a kind of scholarly demeanor. But at this moment, this smile of his was simply terrifying. What's the use of keeping a beast that doesn't even listen to its master? Beast? What's the use? These two cold words were especially ear-piercing. The situation had changed too quickly, and everyone could not react in time. At this moment, everyone finally realized how terrifying this seemingly gentle man was. Behind the hypocritical smile, there was an extremely sharp poisonous dart hidden. It didn't not listen to you, it just didn't listen to them. Yi Yao was extremely unwilling to accept this, and argued with him. Is there a difference? The man replied mockingly. Yi Yao was so angry that she trembled, but more than that, she felt sorry for that yin-yang beast. From the beginning to the end, it was not in the wrong. Looking at Yi Yao's incomparably sad appearance, the two seductive women beside the man became even more proud. Ah, this is really a bastard that I have never seen before. Mu Feng was also so angry that he laughed. This was really the first time he had seen this kind of person in his life. The young man did not think much of it, and his handsome eyebrows slightly raised. His gaze ignored everyone else, and directly fell on Chu Hen. I'm teaching my own beast a lesson, it shouldn't be any of your business, right? What do you think, sir? Everyone's gaze could not help but fall on Chu Hen's body. It had to be said that this young man's eyes were indeed sharp, and he could see that Chu Hen was the center of the group with a single glance. Chu Hen lightly let out a sigh of relief and indifferently replied, "State your price." The man revealed a look of surprise. "I'll buy that yin-yang beast." Everyone was stunned, and Yi Yao also looked at Chu Hen in surprise. You even want something that is about to die?" The man's voice was frivolous, and full of ridicule. "Yes." Chu Hen's eyes were calm. "Let me think carefully. Back then, how many billions did I spend? Yes, 100 billion upper-grade primordial crystals for it. Why don't I transfer 500 billion to you?" Whoosh! 500 billion upper-grade primordial crystals? The entire hall was instantly in an uproar. Mu Feng directly scolded, "You motherf *king crazy about money? Okay, 500 billion it is." Chu Hen replied resolutely. Everyone was shocked again, and Mu Feng scolded in a low voice, "Are you crazy? That thing can't be saved, and buying it is a waste of money." However, Chu Hen was still determined. He stood up, and looked at the young man in front of him. However, the latter shook his head and smiled. "We were just discussing the price. I want 1 billion. Okay, come and get it." Chu Hen's voice instantly became extremely cold. The young man smiled indifferently. "Isn't it better if you send it over?" "As you wish, Chi." As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely strong aura surged out from Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen raised his hand, and a dark blue lightning beam shot out from his palm, attacking the young man like a laser. The young man raised one hand and a series of gorgeous runes danced on his fingertips. He was a heaven-ranked rune master. The surrounding people were shocked. Buzz buzz, space rhythmically moved, and powerful Reiki energy spread out like a spirit spring. The space in front of the young man immediately distorted, and then a golden statue on the other side of the hall suddenly moved, and instantly appeared in front of the young man. Bang! The sharp and resplendent blue lightning directly hit the golden statue, and like a sharp sword, it penetrated the statue from the front to the back, and then went straight for the young man behind it. The latter's pupils shrank, reflecting the shocking rainbow-like lightning. The young man opened his paper fan, and used the fan to block in front of him. Bang! The powerful thunderbolts struck on the surface of the fan, splashing out tens of thousands of sparks. A circle of chaotic airwaves mixed with broken spell symbols spread out. The entire body of the golden statue was instantly covered with cracks, and the entire hall began to sway restlessly. A disdainful smile appeared on the young man's face. However, in the next moment, a light cyclone dissipated from his feet, and a cold figure quietly stood behind the young man. The figure raised his hand, and intertwining lightning quickly climbed up his arm,